James at 16 will not be presented this evening, but will return next week at its regular time. Stay tuned now for a special 2-hour What Really Happened to the Class of 65.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Working with Dr. Strange, I could really just embrace the earliest version of that character, which frankly looked like he was half English, half Asian in the way he was drawn in his first appearance. His eyes had a different kind of shape, and his whole aesthetic was really beaming the sense of Asian culture coming forward. But he also looked like a definitely much older guy, so I didn't hold back with that in the illustration. I'm somebody who likes to embrace age as a definitive characteristic that you can really get into much deeper character with somebody when you show more form and grit in the face. It's more shadow. It's more lines for the artist to hook into.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Time again for another Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. It's time for another edition of the Bendis Tapes.
I don't get it. Alex Ross has a theme song. You have a theme song. I've been on this show for 17 fucking years. Where is my fucking theme song?
What do you want? What do you want to be your theme song? We got the
Well,
Bendis.
I've written one, and thank you. I'm not going to sing it. Anyway.
Oh,
hi, John. How are you?
Bri, it's good to see you. It's as always. I say this when I see my friends, whether in person or via StreamYard or Zoom. Can't we all live on the same street? Because I never see you enough.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be nice. Absolutely, man.
We have to dinner all the time.
It's true, man. I know. Elisa would be like, "Get rid of him."
Every time I have a Chicago-style piece of pizza, I think of you.
Oh, thanks, brother.
Anyway.
And then you get
how's the show going? How is first of all, how many of the blah 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 will not be seen tonight do you have?
I have several. Honestly, it's kind of an obsession because thank God there were so many tapeworms that would put this stuff on VHS and then they put them on YouTube. And man, I'm telling you, like in recent months, I found that Lucy and the Andy Griffith show would not be on. The Lucy show and Andy Griffith. I was very happy about that one. I really loved the My James at 15.
You missed. I did. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud, and I went, "Oh, he would have loved to hear that I laughed at that."
Yes. Oh, nothing makes me happier. Kyle Starks was on yesterday, and I played Ironside will not be here tonight. Seen tonight.
Yeah, I heard that one. Yeah, that's what I went. Oh, it's a different one. We're getting different ones. Okay.
Yes, and I wish I had photos, but I have one where it's just one of those network slides with the names of the shows, and it's the Rockford Files and Chico and the Man will not be seen tonight.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah. Oh no.
I knew you either had 3 or 1,000. I know there was no.
I have several. I do have several, and I'm constantly looking. There's guys that do like supercuts of nothing but network TV promos, and there's a great one with Adam West, early days of Batman here. Make sure you join us twice a week on this very station. It's like that.
It's so funny. My world now is me trying to curb how many times I say to my kids, when I was like back in my day, or TV back in my day, but I'm so floored by the differences in just television. And so what I love is I really try to hold it back, but my kids know I'm holding it back. So my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter specifically, pauses the movie and go, did you have that in your room? I go, yeah, 100%. That was my life. Like whatever 80s movie we're watching. And just the other day, I took my son to a live riff tracks of the movie, the Hal Needman movie, Rad. aka Radical, starring Lori Loughlin, and it was so funny because we're about 10 minutes in the movie, and I realized like my kids are always asking about my childhood, and I'm like, this is exactly what my childhood looked like. Look around. These are the bikes. These are the clothes. These are the people. This is it. I can't give you a better postcard of my childhood in Cleveland than the movie Rad.
That's what's great about Tubi, as far as streamers go, because they have all those throwaway movies like Rad, Tough Turf, Foxes. I mean, all that crap, all the Cinemax stuff that was on in After Hours when we saw our first boobies and stuff. All that stuff lives on Tubi. Which
well, the look on my face when you say Tubi is about a year ago. I will not name the name, but I was on a Zoom call with a very high up human person in Hollywood who literally said, "Hey, what's Tubi?" And I spit my drink. I laughed so hard.
Yeah,
like this person didn't even know what Tubi was, but it would come across their desk, and they knew they had to deal with it. It was very funny.
Yeah, seek out the free streamers, everybody. Crackle also, which I know
Crackle was always a little bit ahead of the curve. I mean, I was confused, like when we were doing the Powers TV show, like why it wasn't like Crackle, like why was Sony splitting the streamer baby between Crackle and PlayStation was always weird. So yeah, I'm with you on that. But Crackle where Coffee and Cars with Seinfeld came from. So
yes, absolutely.
Well, JC, that's how you let people know you're in your 50s, JC. That's what you just did.
Wasn't from Real Housewives of LA, Kim Richards? She was on Tough Turf, I believe.
That's right. Well, I will say the funniest part of the riff tracks with Rad was really the movie is about these kids want to get on with their lives. So some of them are going to college. They like the BMX bikes will get them to college. And then I totally forgot Lori Loughlin's college admission scandal.
Yes.
Like that's her. So about 40 minutes into the movie, she's giving a speech about how to get to college. And they dropped the best joke and the place went nuts. It was one of the biggest laughs I've heard in the riff tracks. It was really funny. Yeah.
I like the new Mystery Science that we're getting on Netflix. I like it fine. But man, those original guys that do riff tracks and also something Titanic. I can't remember. Cinematic Titanic.
Cinematic Titanic was my least favorite of the bunch. They're all interesting ways to do it, but riff tracks and how did this get made do it better than anybody. They are the best.
I agree with you.
Bill Corbett particularly and Mike Nelson are fantastic comedy writers, regardless of what medium. They're just amazing writers.
I agree. Kevin Murphy too.
Yeah, Kevin Murphy too. I don't mean to leave him out, but I've been a fan of Bill's like since early Mystery Science Theater days, and it's just watching him just kick ass decade after decade. It's kind of amazing.
I've had Kevin on the show, and I had Frank Conniff on the show as well. TV's Frank.
Yeah, he's in our world, in our universe of comics. Yeah.
Oh God, massive comic book fan. Mm-hmm. I mean, like love Charlton, which I mean that's like good deep cut, man. Unless you're our age.
Let your Steve Ditko.
Well, that's true. Arrow was there though. They're making a Charlton documentary. See, I swerved at the comics.
Oh, really? Who's making it? I watched it.
Some East Coast guys, and they set up at Terrificon a couple of years. And documentaries take forever. Yeah. And especially
I'm in a couple. I don't know if they'll ever come out. Like I just film stuff, and I'm hoping for everyone's best efforts get made and stuff. Yeah. Every once in a while, I sit down for something, and then like 5 years later, I go, I wonder where that footage is. So like I like if they're not going to make it, I take the footage and do something with it. But
Oh, absolutely. Finally met Selene Thomas and Frank Miller a couple weeks ago at Fan Expo Chicago. And man, Selene has just been great. It was my first real face-to-face with Frank in 17 years. I met him in 2006 after the Eisners, and I was out of business cards. It was my first San Diego. And I'm like, hey, would you come on the podcast? He's like, sure, give me your business card. And I'm like, I'm out of business cards. And literally he went and walked away. And it was so awesome. I told him about it because he's like, John, we've met before. I'm like, Frank, we met ages ago. You're not going to remember this. But
that's surprising. You've never had Frank on, even in all the endeavors and DC stuff and everything.
I think, when he had his rough period, that might have been part of it. But I'm so glad, and truly mentioning documentaries, I helped Selene and Frank with Frank's documentary, and Selene's like, "Yeah, we've been making this for like 10 years."
Yeah.
There you go. But I told Frank that story, and to his credit, because I'm like, "Listen, Frank, this is what happened," and he's like, "Oh God, I was such a dick back then." I'm like, "Frank, I was unprofessional. I should have been prepared." I said, "And I've been dining on that story for 17 years." And he laughed, which was great. And I'm like, "Oh, because you told me and Tom told me we saw those pictures 10 years ago, and it scared the shit out of us about." But he is really doing so much better and cleaned up. And you and Tom,
Yeah, I haven't seen him since 19. I saw him in night. We did a couple signings together, and he was wonderful. Like,
Yeah.
he was so wonderful. I never want to see him again. Like, let that be my memory of Frank. Like, that was absolutely delightful interactions. We did a panel together. It was wonderful. Yeah, really glad we did it.
Yeah, it's a big relief. And Azzarello too, another guy that's worked with Frank in the last few years, and it's like, no, Frank's good, man, and he is good. So
it's wonderful to hear. It's always hard to hear when someone's going through stuff. So
yeah. Well, and again, another transition. They're willing to come on Word Balloon, both of them, because Selena's an accomplished producer, and they're just like, out of sympathy for the strikes, we'd rather wait. And I'm like, really? Not even?
Yeah.
I get it. It's cool.
Even you and I tonight, I had to give pause, and I'm like, no, we have plenty to talk about. Like, because I want to honor the strike with every fiber of my being, because it's so necessary.
100%.
I feel it. We just transitioned to the strike talk.
Well, if you don't mind, before we get into comic talk, I would like to talk about the strike.
Well, not much other than I'm on strike. Like, I'm a Writers Guild member going back to the 90s when I was hired to write Goldfish for Miramax. So I've been consistently in the union since then, and it's always startling to realize I've been a union member for decades. That's crazy. But I have been, and I love my union, and it has kept me sane and in healthy spaces for most of my career, and it's also empowered a lot of my comics career, because I know what was right, because I knew from one side of the fence what was fair trade and what wasn't. So I know that a lot of writers have felt that a lot of comics people who don't have the support of a union, and then when they come into the Hollywood system and they find themselves in any guild, they're immediately like, oh, this is adult stuff. Oh, great. And then you take it back with you to comics. So, for those, it's been 114 days or something like that. It's very, very hard to be on strike. It is not fun. It is super stressful for everybody, no matter where you are in your careers. It is absolutely necessary. There is no other recourse available to us at all. The nonsense that's been going on now for years and years has just escalated to a ridiculous degree. I mean, just ridiculous. And it's stuff they try for everyone. So I'm 100% behind this strike. It's frustrating to be in Portland, where you can't, other than internet, you can't do much. I mean, we could go protest outside of the local station here, but it doesn't do the same amount of effort. So that's frustrating. And also, listen, you've been in a situation before where it's like, I have no control over this. I would like everyone to sit down tonight and get to the compromise that has already been predetermined. We've been through strikes before. Both sides know where they're going to end this. They just have to get there. So just get there. Just go get this and get back to work. 100 days of my life being wasted, of all of our lives being wasted, while everyone postures and peacocks, and that gets super frustrating, knowing what we know, having been through it in 2008 and before, that we know there's an end and we know where we'll be. But everyone's got to puff up their chest and have whatever their secondary motivations are, but through the studios, and that's really frustrating. But I would like to get back to work, especially me and a few of my friends were set up very sweetly at the studios with an overall that I'm very excited about. And I was just about to get to work on some major stuff, and now it's all on pause. Hopefully it goes back when the strike is over. But at the moment, yeah, it's all on pause, and it's a super bummer, because some of it was stuff that I was working towards for a decade. Like, I was really working towards, and it was getting there. So it's hard to have the control of this stuff like fully out of our hands, like fully. Yeah. That's a bummer. But the strike absolutely has to happen. I think for reasons that we're not even striking about. There's stuff there's more stuff that has to be dealt with, but we have to deal with this stuff first.
Yeah, it's always, unfortunately, sometimes the unions are playing catch up with how the status quo has changed in film and broadcasting. And a lot of the demands obviously are things of the moment. But that, I know in talking to a lot of WGA members during the strike, it's like, they didn't see streaming coming. Back in 06-07, when they were on strike then, it was about DVD, or at least
it was the DVDs. By the way, it's the exact same argument. People were posting all that stuff from the first strike, and it was literally identical conversations about DVDs are nothing. And meanwhile, it was everything. And they switched the business model and don't do right by anybody for as long as they can, and then they go, oops, he. And then put it all back or some, but they keep moving the bar to such a ridiculous degree that we have literally there's no other recourse than this. There's no other recourse than pencils down.
One of the specific writer guild things is artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings about AI?
Yeah, fucking sucks, man. Unregulated stealing of people's IP sucks. No matter what tool. And by the way, there's many tools that people use to fuck around with the creative community. This is just one of them.
Sure.
I am not against AI in that I do believe, because again, I'm old enough to remember when Photoshop came along and everyone was like, no, that's it. There will be no more illustration because of Photoshop. And that wasn't the case. But what it was a tool that creative people could use to enhance their abilities and get to a higher truth and artwork and blah, blah, blah. And that's what AI should be. What it is right now is just stealing everything and gobbling everything up and ruining people's lives. And there are a lot of artists out there with no recourses or no resources to protect themselves and are shocked to wake up and find all their artwork stolen. And that's a fucking bummer. And I have friends in your industry, in the audio recording industry. Paul Scheer on his talk show just the other day played an AI version of him reading a story. It was not him, but there was so much raw audio of podcasters talking that all you have to do is load up a few episodes and that chat can completely take over. You could not tell a difference. And I'm a big fan of Paul, watching Paul stressed out on his podcast going, this isn't me talking. It's a fucking bummer. Yeah.
I remember years ago on Radio Lab, them playing audio deep fakes, and it was pretty amazing. Man, I got to listen to that, Paul Scheer. You're going to have to
I'll send it to you. It's on YouTube. It's a pretty good one. And again, this was just a couple months ago, this early goings, and just watching it. Just artists should be protected. Artists should have the choice to say, this is my stuff. This is how I want it used. And again, before AI, there were there's so many ways people were getting poached and things stolen and traced and, re-photoshopped. And so it's not new that this would be tried, but it's the technology is there and it's catching up fast, and it would be great if it was used for good.
I'm hearing that even CBR was replacing writers with AI.
Well, there a lot of that has already happened. First of all, hopefully the chat AI at CBR knows more about comics because they haven't written a lot of comic articles lately, and certainly nothing outside of Marvel and DC. And again, I get enough attention. I'm not talking about myself, but there are quite a few books in the world that could use a little love on a website like that, and they haven't been doing it in years. They haven't been doing it. So when Jonah was running the place, when Arun was running the place, I was part of that. They would celebrate all of us, regardless of where you were in your career or what was going on. And some of these websites are deferring to studio policy and then find themselves being gutted by the same policy. So I'm sad that the CBR people lost their job because I'm sure they're very talented people, but there's a lesson here. Don't just do go with your gut and be bold and tell stories that don't be replaceable.
Well, but, and again, I don't know what sort of editorial edict at top.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you're right. Back in Jonah's time, Jonah covered everything. And truly everybody, now more than ever, and I'm not just saying this about my various sponsors or my friendships with people like Brian, but you're absolutely right, man. Even in your own case and we'll get to Phenomenon Volume 2 through Abrams, Vortex, Jesus said now Vault, and all these great companies, Mad Cave. I remember when Mad Cave first out, and I'm like, I don't know. And all they've done is gotten better and better. Source Point Press. All these companies are making really good books.
Yep.
That the only divider is awareness. That's why I'm here, and I'm happy to talk as much about a Mad Cave book as I am about a DC or Marvel.
No, you have been consistently diverse in your, even when it's stuff that I know you are learning as we go. Like but you're into it, right? That's great, right?
Well, yeah. My hero is Calvin Reed from Publishers Week, formerly of Publishers Weekly. He has since retired. The guy's like 10 years older than me, still gets excited about new comics as he's approaching 70. Well, I guess that's awesome. Yeah, he's in his late 60s. And, God, man, no, he's great that way. And as always, just gets excited about the big two, but also about everything else that's happening in comics.
And again, just so I say clearly, I feel bad for the people at CBR that lost their gigs. I've lost my gig. It sucks. It's never fun. I'm talking about CBR, the organization for years has been, it's hard when the word comics is in the title and there's no comics on the page. All right. Or it's not the main thing on the page.
I'm with you. No,
but I get it. Wolverine gets more clicks, but I think you've also had the opportunity to put some young creators on your podcast. I was one of them. I've seen you do it recently with some newer, because they might not be the biggest name today, but it will be in 5 years, and I got them recorded, and you'll get the hits eventually, right? Yeah. It'll come.
Hey, it's just, the only divider for being on Word Balloon or Not is, do I like the book? And it's just my personal taste, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm the first one to admit it, but it has to interest me. It has to pull me in. And yes, I've had some younger people recently. Oh, thank God. Yeah, JC, I agree with you. Boom, of
What's
course.
going on? I can't with it.
Yeah, JC Kilpack says Boom has.
They're good. That my frustration really comes from the fact that we are in and have been since the pandemic. No pun intended, real boom time as far as creativity in comics is gone. There's a lot of people sat through the pandemic making some bold choices and big swings, and fuck it, I'm going to do the book I always wanted to do or the project I always wanted to do. I don't care if it's the flavor of the month. I'm just going for it. And what happens is a year or two later, you get some really exciting content out there, particularly in independent market, where people are really taking their swings, and it's exciting. So when you see all that going on year after year after year, and no one's bothering to report on it outside of you and a few other people, it's a fucking bummer. It's happened in music, it's happened in theater, where you're like, hey guys, it's a magical time. Focus on it. Don't do hey, remember 2 years ago when everything was amazing? Yeah.
But that's why organically, especially having the internet platform for music, things like Bandcamp develop. And Pitchfork back in the day, as far as being when it was a new musical festival. No, that's truly, it, man. I'm a big, and in fact, from my network interruptions that I played at the start of the show, I'm a broadcast nerd. I have been since
we both are.
Yes, since adolescence, man. Fascinated by the business, and I hate being ringside for when it's on fire, but it is on fire. But it's fascinating because we're in another sea change. God, Bob Iger announcing last month, something, Disney's thinking about selling ABC. I remember when they bought ABC 30 years ago, when they started deregulating telecommunications. And it's like, man, we have come so far from, and here's some old names, William Paley, David Sarnoff, these guys that literally created broadcasting back in the 30s. And when programmers were in charge of these networks. And now, it's been like this for years. and a lot of businesses are like,
well,
this.
there is a difference going on with this one, and there's a quote, there's a clip online with Seth Rogen on the campaign, like, and he said that this is different because when the strike is over, the writers and the actors go back to work as collaborators and friends and go back to doing what they do, and competing, but yet still, working towards the same goal.
Sure.
But it definitely feels like the studios in the past were in competition, but on the same page. They were all making burgers, and they were all making the same burgers, and they're all trying to get the best burgers. And if the cost of doing business is this, we'll figure it out, right? This time it feels like they are not on the same page. All these streamers and companies do not want the same thing. They are not fighting for the same thing. They have different agendas. They also seem to really fucking hate each other, like really, really hate each other. And so when this is over, I'm quoting Seth Rogen, we're going to go back to working together, and they're going to go back to fucking hating each other, right? So what's in it for them to get back to I don't think Warner Brothers and Apple want the same thing right now. Like, there's no evidence that they want the same thing, and that's a struggle for us. I don't know. We'll see. You know what? Like this Zavlov guy, the guy who runs Warner Brothers.
Yes.
People and I see he's doing a lot of PR. Like, he's got that article like, hey, I'm just a guy who's a guy and a guy, like, and trying to like connect himself to Jack Warner. And Jack Warner was a gangster who did seem to really love movies. Like, he really loved them, right? And he was a gangster. We know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, he still screwed a lot of.
No, I'm not. But there was a man, he loved movies, right?
Oh, sure.
I'm not getting the sense from these guys that they love anything, right? Well, they're not. It's just shit. There's no difference. They love whatever makes the money, and that's not how you make money. It never has been the way you make money.
It was either the New Yorker or Slate that did a great profile of Zavlov's entire career.
I think it was New Yorker. I think that's what I'm referring to. And that's not a passionate guy. So maybe I'm wrong. It's not coming out in the press or in his behavior or actions. So
absolutely.
We'll see. But again, they're not all equal. All these executives are not all born in the same factory. They're not like creatives are not all equal. They're all different. They all have different passions. I've met some of these people. Some of them are surprising when you meet them, but yeah, we'll see. But right now it is us against them, and it is not going well. So, but the good news is that it doesn't cover. Good news and bad news is up until 100 days ago it was bad news, but it's good news is that it just doesn't cover comics, and it should, but it doesn't cover comics.
Oh yeah.
And so I and my friends have been able to just sit and make our comics instead. So that's what I've been doing.
I just talked to, and I wanted his Atlanta perspective on both the SAG strike and WGA is Paul Jenkins.
Yeah, I'm sure it's really hurting down there too. That's an industry town. I was down there for Powers.
A guy, they had an agent on one of the local news stations, and he pointed out a very important wrinkle that beyond the obvious crews behind the camera and stuff, he's like, there's a car dealership that rents out 100 cars a week for all the film and television production that's happening in Atlanta. They're losing that business right now. And it's like, yeah. So it does. I mean, in a lot of these cities,
with a lot of people.
Yep, absolutely, man. No, absolutely. Here, David Berlanga.
I haven't even looked at we got comments. We got comments.
Oh yeah. Okay. And also questions from Word Balloon's Patreon as well.
Oh, I love Patreon questions. All right, let's do some questions.
So Dave says, thank you as always for the Bendis tapes. Brian, if one of your books gets adapted, Murder Incorporated, Pearl, Jinx, would you consider being, and again, we're speaking abstractly, would you consider being the showrunner writer? I would like to see you in that role.
For me, it's not abstract because prior to the strike, I have an overall deal at Amazon, and I said in my newsletter that we went over the library and they put Jinx, Pearl, and Murder Inc. into development, hired showrunners that I absolutely adore. And I couldn't be more excited. I would be like writer and producer. I don't want to be a showrunner. Does a lot of hiring and firing. I found that out on Powers, and I've kind of found out where I'm comfortable in the process. I want to be a creative executive, and that's it. Like, I don't want to fire the catering guy, even if he deserved it. I sometimes you have to. Sometimes people got to go, right? You got to go. But I don't want to do it. I don't like people. Some people love firing people. I don't. So I found my level, and my level is to be like the guy next to the guy, and I'm making creative choices. So, and those would be the three. Also, like, but I couldn't do that for all three of them. So, like on Jinx, I would be way more involved than I would be on like Pearl, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
that if everything goes back to the way it was prior to the strike, I would be actively writing Jinx while someone else was writing Pearl, and that's very cool to me. Like all every piece that was in front of me was super fucking exciting, like really exciting. And hopefully we'll see what happens. Again, I have no say in whether or not it all goes back to normal or not, but we're all hoping it does. And I have had, to be fair, any hint that it wouldn't when it all comes back, but we'll see.
Going back to a project that did make it to air that we started to talk about off the air, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, save it for the air, save it for the air. You're going to tell me something about Jessica Jones.
Oh, no, you were just talking about, like you were saying how we were talking about royalties and streaming royalties. And, you know, some of these Netflix shows or streaming shows air as network television, air in what we would look at as network television in the 80s or 90s. Like, I'm sorry, I'm blanking, but there was one small country in Europe, like Uruguay, that had Jessica Jones at 9 and Powers at 10, which was like a vision I had for American television that never was going to happen. But like the power, the Jinx World Power Hour, you know, and so to hear that was going on, so we get like royalty checks from places, things, you know. It's also so though the business model in this part of the world is one way, it shifts in other parts of the world. And I've, had the experience, I'm sure you have too, when we travel to other countries, you turn on the TV, go, oh, that's a TV show to you, because that's a movie franchise to us. So these things get repackaged. I think that's all Lionsgate does, is repackage things. So, again, and God bless, but I sometimes we Americans can get very sucked into the way we perceive media, and it's not the only way it's being perceived. So
did you see last year when it came out, the Stallone movie Samaritan? No. It's fun. It's fun. It's
you see the Stallone movie? No, I did not.
I understand it. It's cool because believe me. Well,
was it good? The Samaritan, the good Samaritan?
I really liked it.
I'll check it out. I did watch the trailer and went, could be, and then I didn't hear anything.
It's a shitty throwaway movie, but you made me sit through Pacific Rim 2 when I was visiting you. But no, it is. It's,
you mean with my young son who thought that was the coolest thing he'd ever seen?
Oh no, it was just you and me, buddy. It was like 2 a.m. We're
Oh,
hanging out, and I'm just like, and you're like, how come you're not watching a movie? I'm like, because I want to talk to you. I don't see you every day. I'm like,
I think you dreamt this. I don't think this happened.
Oh no, it absolutely.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that whole movie. So.
You know what's good that Stallone did? Honestly, the Taylor Sheridan show, Tulsa King, on Paramount, quite good. Quite good.
Yes, but I think you would agree that those. Thank you, King. I will check it out. I haven't heard any vibe on it yet, so that's good to hear. That you and I are of an age where we know that those fucking Yellowstone shows are being shot right into our frontal lobes. Like it is, we are the target audience for these.
Oh yeah,
these dad shows, and I just refuse. I refuse.
Oh, but Brian, you got to embrace, because truly. Forgive me, everybody, because I think I'm a classic liberal. I want inclusion. I want representation. It seems like ageism is that it's just not thought of.
Well, it's not the last for sure, but I don't know, man. It's just like I think if I turned that on, it would be me giving up on. I don't know. It's just like I said to my daughter, I go. There are two dads. There's Yellowstone dads and what we do with the Shadow dads. And what we do with the Shadow dad. So there you go.
But there's room for both. I mean, come on, man.
I don't think I'm both. I don't think I'm both. Not like I love The Old Man with Jeff Bridges. Like that's my line.
Yeah, that's a cool movie.
Which I'm sure is almost identical to Yellowstone. I'm sure there's very similar vibes going on. But also Kevin Costner's a giant asshole. And it's just
I know it bums me out.
You know, like we're of an age. We know he's been an asshole since the mid 80s. So there's been no break, you know.
But I did. I mean, I can count many Kevin Costner films that I actually do like. So,
A Perfect World and what else?
That's a
Clint Eastwood one though.
But I even like the Chewing Gum. I love Draft Day, and especially coming from.
I've never seen Draft Day. I've been writing Draft Day.
Yeah, I've been writing it, and especially coming from sports and spending many a sports radio day following the draft intently and all the lead up to the draft. But I really think it's a successful movie. So yeah, I mean, I even like some of his shit as well.
Untouchables. I mean,
of course.
No. He's a movie star for a reason. It's just, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Back to you. Questions about you. And Christ, we haven't even started talking about the books.
Yeah, but I appreciate that, and I'm excited to share more of Jinx World outside of comics with you when the strike is over. We were really set up for a beautiful space, including the ones as a space as well. So, you know, fingers crossed. This was all built up over years and building the library up to be something that we could have like this. It was really, really special to have. So, and it's a space I get to share with my friends.
Let's see. All right. Now, King Sport Cal has some tough hitting questions here.
All right, hit me. I can't see.
I'll throw this off one. He says, "How much say did you have writing Ultimate Spidey?"
The comic book?
Yeah,
complete. I don't. Yeah, we were. That was kind of the magic of those first couple of years of Marvel, is that I was writing and they were going, "Yeah, this is awesome!" Like, and after a decade of no one saying that to me, it was lovely that I had found not only that we were really on the same page, like what I editorially thought should go in the book matched what Joe and Bill wanted in the book. We were good to go. And in fact, there was a couple of curveballs that I threw at them in script. I've talked about this on this very podcast. How the first issue came together without Peter Parker ever in costume. That's not what they bought. That's a bit of an ask. And I handed it in and I held my breath waiting for the thank you. We're moving on to somebody else who knows how to write superhero comics. Did you have to put the costume on eventually? And instead they supported it. And like 13 issues later, I got it in my head that him having a secret identity from his girlfriend was mean and not in character and didn't make any sense in the modern day settings, and how I know people talk to each other, and that a young Peter Parker would not know it was a mistake to tell his girlfriend. Like, he wouldn't have that worldview. So I wrote up that script and I handed it in, and I went, oh, I hope they like this. And they called me up and said, this is exactly what was missing from the book. Something that differentiates it from other superhero comics and says, this is where we are. And I remember thinking, well, this is as good as it gets. This is when you take big swings and they hear you and they get it. And again, it wasn't that I was at the moment so successful for them that they just felt they had to, like, they had to figure out how to go for it or something. We were on the same page, and it was great. So from there, it was always a conversation, but also I got to be very clear. I've never walked into any gig with here's what I'm going to do. Everyone get out of my way. It's I have a pile of ideas and I'm here to collaborate, and let's put all ideas in, and best idea wins. And we all know it when we hear it. So from the first days of Ultimate Spider-Man, which included, by the way, Bill Jemas handing me over piles of notes he had taken. He was writing that book for 2 years before I had come on board. He had a lot of ideas, and I was able to sift through the ideas and pull out the good ones and the ones that I thought were going to sing. And I talk about this a little bit in the Fortune and Glory, the musical comic book on Substack as we speak. That's the mistake I made signing on to the Spider-Man musical, is that I thought, oh, this is the same job. I'll just take all of her notes and pick out the good ones, of which there were good ones, and hand them back to her in a form that would make it a celebration, which is what I did with Bill Jemas. And that's where I was wrong. It was not the same job. And in retrospect, only made me look at those times with Bill and Joe more fondly, because I realized how special that was, that your boss could be open to those kind of notes from a kind of an unknown employee, and knowing that that's what they needed. So it wasn't that I was going, here, do everything I say. It was me coming to the table with respect for everyone around me. And then at the end of it, everyone respected everybody.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a tough one from the King.
In fact, I was trying to think.
Go ahead.
What did I pitch anything on Ultimate Spider-Man that didn't go? And I'm trying. I'll let you know by the end of the podcast if I think of one. I can't think of anything where it wasn't a it wasn't a good conversation. It wasn't a healthy conversation.
Okay.
And to the point where we got rid of Peter and got Miles. I mean, we were making big swings all the way through. So
sure.
All right. So let's see this question. I wasn't blowing off this question.
No.
Would I agree that Civil War II was a failure? Well, it wasn't commercially. And that is a fact. There was a big, giant commercial hit. I will agree, and you can argue with me all you want. Go Google it. It was not. And in fact, I think it was one of our biggest hits, like ever. It was a big hit. Also, it called Civil War II. It was a sequel to the biggest hit at Marvel. So, but I will agree that by the time we were about 4 issues in, the audience's appetite for heroes yelling at each other and hitting each other was at a low. Sometimes that's at a high. I've been there, like Secret Invasion. It was at a high. By Civil War II, can they just get along? Can they just and that's a vibe. But I will tell you that sometimes the internet gets it in their head that they, as a unit, don't like it. But then, and I can speak for many comic creators. When something gets shit on online, you get a lot of people privately going, I liked it. Why is everyone shitting on it? I liked it. So it's hard to look at anything like that as an abject total failure, because I hear from people every day that absolutely loved it. Also, there are things that were a hit in the moment that aren't a hit right now, and things that weren't a hit in the moment that are a huge hit right now. And so I've had both experiences, and it's ask me in 10 years if Civil War II was what you feel of it. Me, Bill, have different opinions. I'm getting so much love and affection for Secret Invasion this summer, constantly. And I was on this podcast with this man taking shit from a lot of people about Secret Invasion as it was happening. So sometimes you just got to let it breathe and let it find its space, and the audience decides, But I can tell you, I've never handed in anything that I didn't give, I didn't believe in 100% and with my heart while we were doing it. So you might not like the vibe, but we really worked our asses off on it. That's for sure. I worked as hard on the thing you hated as you did on the thing of mine that you loved. And I promise you.
Well, that's always been my thinking going into talking to somebody who maybe had an arc that didn't work or an event that didn't work. And it's like, well, they weren't setting out to do something that people don't like. They were trying something different. They were swinging for the fences on an atypical idea.
Yeah. And by the way, and I'm not saying that everyone loved it. I know everyone did not love it. Sure. I am very aware of what people like and don't like and everything. But also, I have a different perspective, because I hear from a lot more people about my stuff than maybe you do.
Understood. Yeah. Well, sure.
Both pro and con.
Tamer wanted to know if naming Civil War II was intentional synergy with the Captain America Civil War movie.
No. it was, we were cooking summer events, and I was the one going, why aren't we doing sequels for the biggest things in the world? If the story's continuing, like these characters are continuing. I mean, we did Secret Wars 2. Why Civil War 2? And I think Joe said because of Secret Wars 2. I think that was the argument. But we were developing a storyline. The storyline was taking sides, and as soon as sides are drawn, you're like, Civil War 2? It's more that than the other thing. So
let's see.
It's funny. I know some of this stuff feels like it at the time, right? Like you're like, but sometimes it's like, oh, good, we were doing that. Now they're doing Civil War the movie, and we're doing perfect, great, fantastic. And sometimes things go away because it wasn't good timing,
James Bunt is asking questions, it seems, on the behalf of our buddies at iFanboy. But he says Ron Richards at the time put a hit on the Century. Did he ever pay up?
No. To be fair to Ron Richards, he's been asking me for 20 years a question about the Avengers that I have refused to answer. So he's allowed to go nuts on me in any way, shape, or form. Ron Richards wants to know that years and years ago. Yeah, there you go. What was in the closet? He wants to that. I did an issue that Alex Maleev painted. That was Wanda and Clint having an unusual moment between the two of them, and Clint is faced with the fact that his dear friend for many years may be mentally incapable of what's happening, and he knows, and she says that Agatha is behind that door, and he knows if he opens that door and it's a skeleton or anything that isn't Agatha, that he knows for sure that his friend that he loves dearly is as bad off as he thinks, and so he chooses not to open the door that day. I just would rather have one more day with my friend than have to deal with this. So so what's behind the door has driven Ron. Ron, I think, speaks for a few fans, but Ron is the one who has made has never been subtle about letting me know he wants to know what's in the thing. Ron does work at Marvel now, right? Doesn't he?
I know he did a year or two ago.
Yeah, and he reached out to me recently about something that I helped with, and then wrote at the end, like something along the lines of, I could still ask, or I could go ask some. I think I said, you go ask anybody.
You go ask Brevoort. See if Brevoort now. That is hilarious, man. No, I get it. And also mentioning this stuff, and also when you were talking about fights and conversations with Civil War II, it reminded me. When I talked to Jenkins a couple days ago regarding AI, where I think, as smart and as evolved as this thing will get, there are just weird hair ideas you men and women have for characters that no AI could emulate. And Paul had that Spider-Man story where there was a piece of cheese in the refrigerator became sentient. And it's like, yeah, an AI isn't going to do that. Or even a more
long-ish Paul's issue of Peter Parker where he goes to the ball game with Uncle Ben, right? There's a ball game. That is a story from Paul. That is not a story that I could write. That's a story only Paul could write. So to think that any AI could write it, it's wrong.
No, it's going to be warmed over, regurgitated ideas. I think AI.
And by the way, there's plenty of people that's what they want. They
100%.
want comfort food. You could write network style procedurals, and God bless. But
you can write comic books like that.
People who write and make and read independent comics and independent film and independent music are here for the mistakes, for the inspiration, for the weird shit that no one else thought of. Like, that's what it's there for. And again, it's everything that everyone likes about something. It's that weird little thing. It's that weird little moment, including in Ghostbusters. Like you go look at the movie Ghostbusters. There's like 6 or 7 little weird things in there that no computer would have ever thought of, right? So,
no, I hear you, man, and that's why. I used your argument, not argument, because Paul and I agreed on this, but just like you've said, Dr. Doom and the Thing have fought each other a million times, but it's the conversations that can make it really sing and be different and unique. So, yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think when the dust settles, and if I can be real cup half full here, and I'm talking we're a couple of years away, that AI will be a tool that is used by creative people to get to a higher calling of creativity, just like Photoshop, just like clip art was. Clip art didn't replace us, So that's how old I am. That I remember the clip art conversation, but I do look at it not unlike Photoshop, because I remember the deep panic that happened around Photoshop 2, and it was similar in vibe. And I do think when it all settles down, that there are going to that the audience will dictate how much of this they'll put up with as far as the saturated stuff goes. But they're going to want AI in the hands of real filmmakers and real talent and real writers and real craftsmen and craftspeople, and we'll see what that is. But I think it will be a tool that gets used well and wisely and takes us into cool places.
I'm with you, man. Let's see. I want to go to. I would like to talk about one of the new books that was announced.
Oh well, yeah. This is so Phenomena. For those who don't know, is a book I do with Andre Lima Araujo, and I could not be more proud of this book series. We are right now, Andre and I are 50 pages into book 3. So we are knee deep into book 3. So we're feeling, so this book is, we're just putting the final touches on the files, and it is absolutely stunning. This book looks like this on every panel. It is beautiful. It's a book about a boy and a girl and a cool creature who are walking through our world. It is Earth that has been through a phenomena, and with every page we get closer to finding out what it was and what happened. And in book 2, some big clues, as the character Matilda, who people met in book 1, she brings her friends back home to where she came from, which is basically London, England, that's been transformed by the phenomena into a magical place of imagination, and we get into a whole nother adventure around this world that's completely different than the one we took in the first volume, which was the Golden City of Eyes. But with each panel, I fall deeper in love with Andre. This is, I've had a life filled with amazing collaborations, and this, we took a big swing together, and it has been delightful. Last night I was doing another PDF polish on it, and I keep tripping on stuff that Andre did in the book that I did not see the first 30 times I looked at it. And I'm just so in love with him this week. I can't even tell you. So yeah, you can pre-order it right now. It'll be in stores in the spring, but this is right now a 3 volume series of books from Abrams Comics Arts. They do the Fantastic Four book with Alex Ross and so many of my other favorite graphic novels and comic projects right now. And I'm just really excited not only to be published by them, to be part of their stable of talent that they have. It's kind of an honor to be there, to be honest. So pick it up. And also it's not only is it an artistic achievement of the highest order, but you can completely curl up with your kids and read it and enjoy, and take them somewhere that's not Star Wars. Enjoy something else for a while. And we've gotten a lot of mail from parents who did that, and that's made me very happy. So as a parent who sometimes needs a Star Wars break, I was very grateful to be that for other people. So
no, I'm with you. Do you have your own editor that you bring to projects like this, or does
this one? I have in the past, but I'm at Dark Horse with Daniel Chabon, and he edits all our stuff, and he curates everything we do there, including he's gone back into early editions of Powers and found typos. So he's really like, the stuff that's coming out from Dark Horse is really immaculate. But for Phenomena, it is edited by Charles Kaufman, who is now the editor-in-chief of Abrams Comics Art. He wasn't when I started there, but because of this and Marjorie Liu's Nightbreeders and stuff, he's been promoted to editor-in-chief, and I couldn't be more proud to be part of his choices of late. So
is that Kochman or Kaufman?
Kochman.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, I said it right? Yeah.
And I thought you said Kaufman, but it's cool. I wanted to make sure. No, no, and that's a familiar name. I mean, I talked to Denny O'Neil about.
No, he was at DC like before I was at Marvel. Yeah, absolutely. He's got a hell of a CV.
He, I want to say, he edited Nightfall, the novelization of Nightfall that Denny wrote back in the day. So
I want to say the same thing. That sounds right.
Yeah, no, pretty cool. And I know Levitz works with him too. No, Abrams is really beyond the graphic novels. Very and likely because of Kochman and everything. No, they've got a very healthy attitude towards not only comic books but comic criticism and the like and history.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Check them out. There's a lot going on there. Jason Shiga's work is through them. I'm a huge fan of his. So it's everything they're doing there is quite. Chip Kidd and like everybody there is some of my favorite people.
I'm with you, man. Absolutely. Let's see here.
And I will say though, the difference, Abrams is like a quote unquote like real book publisher, like
right.
but the structure, the machine is different. Like the Dark Horse machine has similar components to the Marvel and DC machine, where these books get out the door and this is how we do it, and this is blah blah blah. But this is curating a graphic novel for shipping next spring, which is it means it's leaving my hands next week, and you won't see it for 6 months. That's a different feeling to me. When I've fallen in love with, I do love it. It's a different feeling, but it is having been on the monthly comics hamster wheel for decades. It's weird to be like, so I'm done now. Okay, it's quite wonderful.
No, and I can appreciate that might be, depending on the creator, hard to get used to because of the immediacy of a monthly deadline.
But you know what? I had a summer I worked at McDonald's, and then I went and I got a job at Burger King, and it was really hard because they do the exact same thing, but everything's different. And the same thing happened to me when I walked in at DC. I'm like, you guys make the same hamburgers as Marvel, but you do everything differently. How fascinating. Not better or worse, just different.
I'm sure.
That like at DC, a group editor is a senior editor, and at Marvel, senior editor is a group editor. Just that alone is just different.
No, I'm with you, man. All right, I want to go through some Patreon questions.
Oh, please, yeah.
Oh, what do you think of Mystery Soul? Is the person that asked this question? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't have any opinion on Mystery Soul.
I understand.
Yeah.
What do you think of the writing? Wait, no, there it is. What do you think of both the writing of Miles Morales and Jessica Jones following your departure of Marvel?
Oh, listen, I'm going to sound like I'm just kissing everyone's ass, but I if I'm wrong on this, you let me know. I have been so blessed in this regard. This beyond all things. Like Miles just thrives in so many people's hands. So many in comics, video games, and Lord and Miller and the group. I often try to spend mental time trying to sit back and just enjoy that. That's what a gift that is, right? Like everyone feels empowered to bring truth to Miles and their world. It's happened in so many mediums that it can be overwhelming. Wow, so many times. So I feel immensely blessed. I love what's going on in the comics right now with Cody stuff. I've told anyone who asks me, who's involved with any character that I've created or co-created, that if you're writing them, go nuts, go for it. Don't do anything I did. Go blow them up, tear them apart. That's what I did when I came to Marvel. And we joked around this years ago where I was killing characters left to right, and Joe goes, okay, you can kill Jack of Hearts, but I'm going to let George Perez kill Jessica Jones. So you know how it feels, because I don't think you know how it feels. and I thought that was a solid note. And I tell anyone who wants to know, I would like you to go fucking crazy. And every once in a while, Gail will go, hey, I got offered to write Jessica. And I'm like, please write Jessica. Nothing would make me happier than you writing Jessica. And then she goes nuts, and it's great. It's fantastic. So it makes me very happy.
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
like even it's weird. Like some creators that want their shit to go away when they're gone. Like, don't touch my yeah, that wasn't the deal. Like, if that's the deal, then you make your own comics that you control. But if you're putting toys in the toy box and you're using toys in the toy box, then you have to be open to anyone else using your toys the way they want to use them. But again, I think I've been blessed more or less with people making better choices than me or bold choices, and I can enjoy them and sit back and celebrate them. So it's not like I'm watching people just like ruin everything and pace around. I get mostly great people doing great work. It's kind of amazing.
Douglas Baker, any planned collaborations with fellow Portlandians like Rucka, Fraction, etc.?
Yes.
Okay.
We get together often, as you know, and we are particularly me, Matt, and Greg get together, and it's a very healthy part of my life. So yes is the answer. Me and Matt, we saw Dick Tracy just a couple weeks ago on the big screen. That was you would have loved that. Dick Tracy on the big screen was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
I think at the time the movie came out, I'm a big Warren Beatty fan, we know. But I think when the movie came out, it was like 1990. I was so done with Madonna that I couldn't like hear her voice without going, ugh, right? So seeing it with some distance, she's amazing in that movie.
Really, really good.
I could not hear her voice back then. It was like, right? It was, remember, she was everywhere. It was constant. It was like on a level that people can't even perceive today, even with like a Kim Kardashian or something. Like Madonna was everywhere all day long. And now she's in Dick Tracy. And but there she is in this movie. She's lit by Vittorio Storaro. She looks amazing. She's never looked better. She's like, oh my God. So we had a great time. Also, you would like this. So we saw in a movie theater in Portland, the Hollywood Theater. People know what it is here in town.
Okay.
It's like the place you go see movies like that.
Sure.
And they asked beforehand, who here has seen it before? Half the audience had not seen it.
Oh, that's great.
So when the reveals happened, there was genuine shock in the audience as if it was a new reveal, and it was so delightful.
Hey, man, I understand. I mean, again, when I was a kid going into high school to the revival houses and watching some of the classic movies I had never seen before on the big screen, you know, it's like NBC used to say, it's new to you. And it's true. You know, no, it's outstanding, man.
Yeah,
when Dave Vassan says, we can imagine, Brian, Beyonce has the internet. It's true. But you know, Beyonce is not as grating as Madonna was. God, you must remember this. Fantastic.
Okay, no, Beyonce comes out when she's selling something. But it's not 24 hours a day, all day. It's basically what Trump is now is what Madonna was back then.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say the podcast, You Must Remember This, Karina Longworth, talking about old Hollywood. She has a thing about sex in the 90s and really talks up Madonna, the movies she made, but also the Madonna phenomenon, you know, that was happening and stuff. And no, man, her book Sex with all the photos and all that stuff. It was, yeah, hey, here's more Madonna. If you're not, there's even more. But she's amazing in Dick Tracy. I can't think of anyone else who would have made a better Breathless Mahoney to be able to handle the music and the acting. No, and that's a great. It's a.
I'm trying to spoilers from 40 years ago, but there's a reveal, a Madonna reveal, and when the reveal happened, the audience gasped and then laughed at themselves for gasping as a group. It was very funny. It was, oh, we're hilarious that we're falling.
Yes, that you were duped. But no, it's great. Everybody in that movie is great. It's fun. It's just fun.
And, oh, you know what I saw last week, Matt and Greg? We saw Old Boy. I never saw Old Boy before.
Great movie.
The original Old Boy. And
yes.
Boy, that was really something to see. I know it's in theaters right now. That might be a good one. I hope I'm not breaking strike rules. I don't think I am on this one. But
you know, my buddy Mario wanted to know if we would be willing to talk about current TV and film, and it's your call, Brian. I mean, it's
you know, it's maybe in the most abstract I will, because it was such a great summer. It was an amazing summer, and for those of us of an age, I think this is exactly what 1984 summer felt like. like I was trying to think of when like everything was like a fucking home run to the point where like I went to my wife, Spider-Verse was this summer. It feels like 3 years ago. It was like 8 weeks ago. And that's amazing. That's how much crazy cool shit has come out in this time. I will say I had I've loved everything I've seen. The big swings, I loved all of them. And I had a really great moment in the theater. And sometimes these things are abstract to me until you're looking at them. But like I'm in the theater and I look and there's the Spider-Verse poster next to the Indiana Jones poster, and thinking about how Indiana Jones as an abstract concept is a perfect creation, right? I used to look at Indiana Jones. This is perfect. This is created perfectly. And that's the goal. Ooh, if only I could, if only, right? And then to have Miles like right next to him in the theater, it just completely flattened me. I hit a moment where, oh my God, it happened. It's like I needed Indiana Jones to be standing there for me to put it into context of what my goals were in life and how amazing that was.
Oh, this is nice, Jose.
I hope that makes sense. I don't mean it as a bragging thing. It was the weirdest thing in the world to like have a movie in theaters and then have it be next to Indiana Jones. And I said to my friend, like I said, oh my God, this is a time machine moment. And I go, and 12-year-old you would go, they're still making Indiana Jones movies in 2023? Anyway.
Here's a nice thing Jose says about Miles.
Yes.
I want to thank you for Miles Morales. You gave me so much street cred with the kids I've worked with for years, awesome. From kindergarten to the 8th grade. They asked me, Mr. Morales, are you related?
Nice. That's great. Say yes, by the way.
Absolutely.
There's that one kid in class, just give him a little, that's right. I'm him.
That's awesome. Let's see. And of course,
or just go, I'm Uncle Aaron. Anyway.
And thanks to you and Chris Somney, Principal Suttress even had a Miles Morales encounter before
that's
all
right.
was said and done. So,
that's right.
Let's see. Mario, and again, I'll let Mario.
One more chance to get Suttress into the movie. I know. I know.
Across the Spider-Verse, Mario says, was such a love letter to everyone who worked on Spider-Man comics. And
that's I didn't do that, so I can talk about it with you as a fellow fan. I know my name's on it, and sometimes it's hard for people to get that I'm not bragging. I'm telling you, I share that feeling with you. I get to tell Lord and Miller first, holy shit, yeah, great job, amazing, oh my God. But yeah, I'm so happy that Miles is a conduit to bring this to people. That wasn't what he was built for, and yet consistently does that. And if I had to wish for something, it would be that one of my things was that. Like I think I told you, like I wanted two things: this, and that just celebrates comics at the deepest level, and also something that makes other people want to draw or other people want to make stuff. And we talked about this even a few years ago with the first one came out. It felt that way. It felt like The Matrix. The Matrix made people want to make stuff, right? And Spider-Verse makes people want to make stuff. And it's kind of great. And it's also, we're getting a sense of Spider-Verse's animation, like, what's the word? It's affecting other animated movies.
Yes.
In only good ways.
Yes.
And watching their Turtles, and there was so much Spider-Verse DNA in their Turtles movie, which on another podcast and another day I would give the highest recommendation to. Watching that happen as well makes me very happy. I also, on a side note, I don't do any of the hiring on Spider-Verse. I've hired nobody. I'm not that person. I'm just a consultant, and they keep hiring people I love. And without me ever, like, they don't know I love Sanford Green. No one asked me, hey, me and Sanford are working on Justice League Annual together, and he's like, I'm working on Spider-Verse, and I'm like so, like, Chris Anka I love Chris Anka and so all these and Sienkiewicz, like all these people I really love. Finding gigs on this makes me so happy, and gigs they love, gigs they're having the best time on.
No, Sanford's last few years in general have been so great, especially when he started off and had to stay on model and do toy spin-off comics way the hell back. And the guy is such a brilliant artist, and I'm so happy for him on so many levels, and Spider-Verse is certainly one of them. He's a great guy.
You know, David Walker's one of my best friends. I'm sitting there reading Bitterroot, going, God damn! I like, and it happens every once in a while. Like Matt and David Aja. I'm like, well, I want to work with David Aja, but I also want Matt to continue working with David Aja. So like that's his relationship, and I shouldn't inflict myself. So when there was an opportunity to squeeze an annual out of Sanford during the pandemic, I was like, I like just exciting just to get a little taste of that experience, because I think these are amazing people.
Absolutely. I'm breaking Sanford's heart. I can't find my my Will Eisner DVD that Comic Book Artist put out, that documentary where they had all of Will's, as we've talked about before here, those audio interviews he did with comic creators.
It's on YouTube. Those are all on YouTube.
Are the conversations on it?
Yeah, all the cassettes.
Oh, that's great. All right, good, because then I could send that to Sanford.
Yeah, no, I'll find them. They're around.
Oh, that's a big. Well, and that thank you all the tapeworms, because there are so many great special features over the years on DVDs that if you didn't buy the DVD, you may never see it. And my buddy Rob Burnett used to produce a lot of those. He did them for the first 2 X-Men movies. Mm-hmm. He did them for all the Lord of the Rings films, and he did Superman Returns. And there's just these great. He did a great one on Tron, the original Tron.
Mm-hmm. I've watched it recently.
Rob produced that. Rob put that together. And
YouTube is a smorgasbord of that stuff. I don't like if anyone ever says I'm bored, I'm like, how could you be bored? Everything that was ever on a Laserdisc is on YouTube. Go watch it.
Best it, and again, I don't mean to name drop, but when I first and only time I met Chris Hardwick and had a conversation with him, I'm like, yeah, my podcast, whatever. And he goes, are you on YouTube? And I'm like, dude, I do like 2-hour shows, 3-hour shows. And he's like, I'm like, isn't that for bad kittens and puppy tricks and all that bullshit? He's like, get on YouTube. Everyone watches YouTube. And I'm like, and that was well before I was doing video. So, he's right.
Well, it's interesting to watch, we're such film nerds, and watch all this material that would be on the DVD now turn into podcasts, and rewatch podcasts and everything. And if anything, and I used to like, even a couple years ago, pine for the director's commentary. And now we're like, oh no, we get it. It just comes in the form of happy, sad, confused 3-hour conversation with, the director of Mission Impossible. That's how we get our director's commentary. So.
Well, here's a question for me. Thanks, James. He wanted to know, are there any characters that will be or maybe it is to you as well, that will be falling into the public domain soon that you want to crack at? I always say, truly, and listen.
Superman?
A Robert E. Howard creation. And really, if you read the original stories, you got to be sensitive to the fact that these are things of their period, and there's a lot of terrible slurs and other things that are used that were just happenstance, unfortunately, in the 30s.
Of its time.
But yes. Robert Howard's character, Sailor Costigan, was a merchant marine boxer who would travel from port to port and punch out the local champion. And they're fun. And I'm a fight fan. Gary Gianni, there was a great collection of Howard's Costigan short stories. And Gary Gianni did the cover, and he drew this fantastic Sailor Costigan inside the book for me, which was just so sweet of him. He's a great guy. But yeah,
no. But I'm of a mindset. This goes back to Siskel and Ebert, but they were joke about why are they remaking this stuff? Just steal the idea and make a new one, because your reality is so different from that reality that it will be completely different by the time you're done with it. So a lot of times when I see something like some old, if let's say I was in love with Betty Boop, I'm not. But if Betty Boop was coming into the public domain, I think my instinct wouldn't be I can't wait to get my hands on Betty Boop. My instinct is, what is it about Betty Boop that I love so much that I'm dying to do? And what could I create that would satisfy that, and then also would be new and something that wasn't wrapped around weird sexual mores of a yesteryear that I have no connection to, So you know,
90 years
I watch them. They who wrestles with it more than the James Bond franchise? This is a terribly sexist, violent character that you're constantly trying to evolve. And though I've found the wins on that very interesting, I think Casino Royale is a masterpiece. I'm always like, why don't we create a new character that and it seems that Ethan Hunt is that. Ethan Hunt is James Bond of this generation and doesn't have to fight its way into the modern day sensibility. It's just there, In fact, watching, let's say someone watched the recent Mission Impossible. I'm not saying I did, but if I did, I would have been quite blown away by how many female leads and female leads of an age were completely in charge of the narrative thrust of the movie, and how Ethan Hunt really wasn't, and how interesting that was, from the filmmaker's perspective that they made that choice. So and it speaks to our reality in much better than what we've seen in James Bond movies the last couple of times.
Fair. James also says he really wants the Thin Man updates. You know what's tough about? Again, the Thin Man of its period, and I love that. Great Dashiell Hammett stuff. My God, but I have to admit, if you were to modernize the Thin Man, it would lose its appeal. Matt Wagner said this to me years ago, and I hear what he's saying, and I don't think it always applies, but most things are best if you keep them in the era in which they were created.
There's more example. Again, that's a generalization that's hard to lock down for all things, but for most things that does seem to be true.
Yeah.
I was just this week they reran a very funny episode of How Did This Get Made? Space Jam, and the original Space Jam, and watching them try to wrap their heads around the choices and the pop culture references from the 1930s that were already dated in the 90s, and that was 30 fucking years ago, right? Like Space Jam is an old reference, right, to a kid today, and watching the Bugs Bunny maybe should have stayed back in his dress back there, So it's who knows? I don't know. Hard to say.
I understand. I just think again. Nick and Nora were big cocktail generation drinkers and stuff, and it's like you don't want to modernize them. What are you going to get Sid and Nancy as detectives now? I don't know. And even that's not modern. That's 40 years ago.
But that also happens a lot. Is that if you really look at what's going on in TV today, you can go, oh, Poker Face, that's Rockford Files.
100%.
Or Columbo more
yes.
traditionally, but so it's not that it's not original; it's completely original thing, but it's Columbo for us.
Yeah.
So it that's of interest, and watching you wrestle all your emotions about the Star Trek franchise as it evolves, and that one is interesting because it was always pushing forward. It was always looking for the door to the future culturally. So it's in its DNA to evolve with the time, where some things they were not trying to do that. So
I agree. As I always say, I'd like a little more science fiction in my Star Trek, and I kind of miss it. They representation, they do great, and that's truly, and that's wonderful. But again, it used to be a balance. But my 2 cents. You'll forgive me, everybody. I talk about it more than enough on this show. So.
I know you got a lot of Star Trek. You got a lot of Star Trek on the show.
Can't help it.
But I do. I want to just type in, you love it. Just love it. You do. You love it.
I really liked the first season of Strange New Worlds. I was very disappointed by the big swings that they took. I felt this season was much more about gimmick rather than Star Trek, and I miss Star Trek. And I'd like more.
Now, I haven't seen it, so I'll have Elisa, who I believe is on the porch watching Star Trek right now.
I was gonna say, and truly, and every time I have you on, Elisa, I really want to have that. Just even you and I, on the phone, because and not to berate you, but to get what you like about it and have the discussion. Come on, she and I bond over Farscape. I know that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, so yeah, no, she knows.
No, and I also tell there's always things that like our marriage it's sustained on that we have things that we like and things that we're separate. Like she like in Star Trek is her thing that I also like, and but I can tell like there's a level she wants to go down the hole, and I'm not I just can't be there for her. Same thing with I'm wearing her Real Housewives merch. So, you know, and every once in a while because good Lord, she lets me, like I come outside and go, let me tell you about, you know, and I go off on some amazing joke from What We Do in the Shadows. And then I let her go off on Vanderpump Rules for 45 minutes, and, you know, it's wonderful.
That's outstanding.
And that's how you stay married for 28 years. There you
go. Shelley Baum chimed in with a silly question.
Oh, she did? Who did?
Shelley Bond, our good friend.
Comics own Shelley Bond?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Who has only become such a good friend in the last few years with me. And I'm so happy about that because I always respected her as an editor. And now she's one of my favorite people. And I love Philip as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of mutual friends who speak very highly of her. What was your question?
Well, she's quite the British 80s pop fan. And she wants to know who is your favorite member of Duran Duran and why.
Oh, well, that's a good one. It was Roger Taylor. Only because Simon Le Bon was back then. He was such an ass, wasn't he? He was just like again. I was coming at pop music with a lot of aggression that I've recently discovered from my. Oh, Madonna's great. What's my problem? So I'm thinking that little man had a lot of anger. And I think my favorite singer in Duran Duran is the lead singer of Bendis. So there you go.
I appreciate the guys that went on to Power Station after Duran Duran, the Taylor brothers, I believe, Roger and John.
And I remember going, oh, they're real musicians. They can really play. I remember that being very exciting to me. That wasn't everybody back then.
You know, MTV was brand new when I was like a sophomore in high school. And, I'll admit Hungry Like the Wolf and Rio. I love those videos, especially Rio. It's like
all day long.
Oh my God. I want to be on a yacht. Yeah. I want to be on a yacht like that, just hanging out and singing with friends. That's my ambition of what I want to do to grow up and everything. So yeah. So Simon didn't bother me. In fact, I even made the ridiculous comment of, they could be the next Beatles.
No, I will one up you and say that though I am Simon Le Bon, I was dressed like him for most of the 80s and 90s. 90s would have been sad, but I went to Chess King and I said,
"Yes,
Simon Le Bon me."
Chess King, absolutely, man. They closed.
I wanted to be Sting desperately, but I couldn't pull it off in both face structure, hair. Nothing was stingable, so I could get closer to a Simon Le Bon, thing going.
Sure. When Genesis adopted the working class Brit look with the trench coat and the Curly Howard kind of newsboy cap, that was my college look, definitely. So I was, but if I had to dress up, I did go to Chess King, absolutely. So I hear.
Yep.
That is.
I would treat myself. I would treat myself with a $10 shirt that everybody else had.
Hey, wow! Look at those brown plaid pants. Outstanding. I'm in.
Oh, if only.
Well, all you have to do is watch some of these terrible 80s and 90s sitcoms. And Dear John, the Judd Hirsch TV show from the 90s. Lots of very loud 90s fashion in that.
Oh, the tucked in puffy shirts and
the multicolored ties and the big shoulders and here's my cranberry blazer, crap like that. Hilarious. You're killing me. Outstanding. Let's see here.
But I will say, Shelley, I do. Instagram seems to have captured my. Oh, I know where you're from, and sends me clips of Brit pop all day long. But I will say they've been very high quality. I posted just yesterday Madness singing an a cappella version of Our House that I had never heard before.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite outstanding. And I was like, and recently they did in the last 10 years.
Oh, fun.
And I was like, oh, what is this? So I was the algorithm on Instagram is pretty sweet, except for every once in a while, like you'll like I'm looking through the random, and I go, oh, who is that? And I'll like click on it to see who it is. And my eyesight sucks, and it'll be like Nev Campbell yelling at somebody, right? And I'm like, oh, and then I'll go away, and then the algorithm now thinks I just want Nev Campbell content. I don't want any Nev Campbell content. God bless her, but I don't want it, and so I have to deal with that for a week. And then like my daughter's like, oh, you really got the thing for the girl and scream? I go, I don't. Anyway.
Sean wants to know, on the no one has ever said a bad thing about them standard, who is the nicest person in comics today?
No one has said anything bad about them. Who's in
yeah, who's like, and I know one of your favorites comes to mind.
I mean, like almost anyone I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis, I would vote for nicest person in comics. I also hit that age where if you're not nice, I'm just gone. You just don't hear from me again. I'm in my 50s and I got 4 kids, and I have no time, and also I used to like be so humored by assholes that I just stand there and let an asshole me and watch them do it, just like as a writer, and now I don't have the patience for it anymore. So particularly in comics, I find people who use comics to be an asshole, I'm like, why are you here? With great power comes great responsibility. Do that or fuck off. I get it. I know we're all adults and everybody, there's shitheads everywhere, but there's something about this medium, and I know I sound immature, but there's something about this medium. I don't know why you could be here and be a dick. I don't get it. And I know there's some people think I'm a dick because I shut down on them for being a dick. So,
two that always come to mind, and you and I have discussed it before, where I think in the Hall of Fame of nice guys in comics are Dave Gibbons and Walt Simonson, obviously.
Dave Gibbons, yeah, 100%. Walt Simonson, 100%. Walt Simonson, I'm going to see him in a couple weeks in Baltimore. And as I was, I'll embarrass him again. As I was sitting in my here thinking, all right, prepare yourself to not embarrass yourself in front of Walt Simonson when you see him again. He was so cool about me doing. I sent him the Fortune and Glory the musical. I did a comic book about him, about how we met when I was a kid,
yes,
and
right.
I sent it to him and said, I'm yet again. You were nice to me 40 years ago, and I'm just pummeling you for it. And I said, if you don't like this, it will go away. But I did this, and he was very nice about it. And then we're having dinner in Baltimore, right? And I was like, oh, he's so nice. He has so many reasons not to speak to me, and he's so nice. I've given him every excuse to go get away. And yeah, so yeah, for sure, of my heroes, Gibbons, Simonson, and there's a few other in my peer group. Anyone you see me hanging around with, I promise you, I don't have any patience for nonsense. I just don't have the time for it. So Matt, Kelly, Greg, David Walker, Mike Oming, Taki Soma, David Mack, these Michael Gatos, these are wonderful people who have proven time and time again and have only improved over time. So I can say that about almost everybody I know who I work with closely.
That's great. I saw Walter and Louise at Terrificon at the beginning of the month, and it was so nice. And Walter hugged me, and I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Because exactly, it's like, I mean, certainly even more so. I mean, you've become friendly with them, and then they're having dinner with you and stuff. I don't want to be Kathy Bates. I don't want to be that.
You know, the last time we talked, he hopped on this podcast.
Yes,
he hopped on and said, I completely freaked me out. He did. Yeah.
I felt the same. No, true. And it always does mean so much when the creators do pop in. Gail popped in. It always means a lot when Nick Barucci popped in.
And to be fair, quite a few of us, and I know this for a fact, we pop in and while you're doing it live, and then we just like want to enjoy the conversation. Like, I don't have to involve myself in everything, So you do get quite a few people Like right now, I know Alan Moore is like floating around watching this. He can jump in. You can jump in, Alan. It's okay.
While he's conjuring a spell. Absolutely. I love Alan. It's all right. Alan can do whatever he wants. It's
but I will say though, we do talk about this a lot amongst our because there is always a wave of some bad behavior that goes on in any industry.
Sure.
And it's super fucking frustrating. I will tell you, treat people with respect or you're gone. They all end up being shown the door. Like, even if it takes a while, like there's no, just be nice, be kind. Your work will only improve and everything about your career will improve with kindness. So did you leave? John, are you gone? Feels like you're gone. Is it just me? That's crazy. All right, I can take over. All right. Let's see. Infamous Iron Man was dope. Thank you. How did I come up with the premise for Infamous Iron Man? Infamous Iron Man. Thank you, King's Protocol. That was I must say this was an idea I kept revisiting, and I'm so happy that Dr. Doom is where I ended the idea. But I was from very early on very into the idea of how big of a hole can a villain or an antagonist dig for themselves and get themselves and decide not to be the bad guy anymore. If someone has a change of heart and they want to turn it around, how would that go? Could it be, what would the redemption arc be on a villain? And so I did one in Powers, and I did one in because the idea was very consuming to me. And then I got to a place where I could do it to Dr. Doom. Like who's dug a bigger hole for themselves in pop culture than Dr. Doom? He's the big villain. And I go, could I do it to Dr. Doom? Could I conjure a story in which Dr. Doom on its own terms becomes the hero of his story? And it worked. And it did. Finally, it was a big enough villain where I felt I could let that story idea go. It kept chasing me, and with Doom, I felt that was as good a mountain as you can climb for that story. So that was a good one. Let's see what else we got here. I know we lost John. It's so crazy, but I got questions here. Let's see. I didn't realize. Tom Moore says I didn't realize until a few years ago. Not only was Ivan Reitman produced Space Jam, but he basically directed it. More than the actual director. Yeah, Ivan Reitman has an interesting career. He really, really does. And the more you hear about it, and there's a lot of actual interesting Ivan Reitman related content on the Howard Stern YouTube channel, because Ivan Reitman produced Howard's movie, and they got to know each other really well. And you want to hear the best behind the scenes Ghostbusters stuff, it's on the Howard Stern stuff from years ago. Can you tell the story behind Love is Love? Well, that's that benefit book for the nightclub in Florida. Yeah, that one my daughter came up with. They asked us to be part of it, and my daughter, who's in film school now, was sitting with us, and we were talking about, like, I didn't want to. All I said was I didn't want to tell a story. I thought there was an image that would tell the story, and my daughter pitched the image, and I believe Mike drew it that night. And there you go. So King's Portal wants to know, what do I think of bro films like Fast X? Well, I depends on the franchise, but I tend to love them. I love silliness. I love anything that makes good episodes of my favorite podcasts. So the Fast franchise makes excellent podcast content for, Scott Hasn't Seen, and How Did This Get Made, and other podcasts like that. So yes to that. I also like when things go insane. I like when people take big giant swings. I grew up with Luc Besson and directors like that. So it's kind of like where my heart falls. Let's see. Are there any characters that would be falling in public domain? We did that one already. Bendis, what are your favorite restaurants and pods that you would suggest to people visiting Portland? All right, Portland people, here's the good news. There's so much here I know other cities have their love too, but Portland is and continues to be a gourmet town. Just tonight, we went to a food cart pod that is literally hidden in an alley that I didn't even know about, and it was the best. Like there's so many hidden little secrets. So come to Portland, and you will take you years to get to all the food and all the culture and all the content and stuff. I mean, like this summer has been me and my kids doing something new every day, and there's been something new to do every day. So, and there's definitely a sense that Portland had a rough couple of years during the pandemic, and the hi, John. Portland had a rough couple of years with the pandemic and the protests that were sincere, but there's been a real resurgence of the weird Portlandia. Portland has returned big time this year, and it's been delightful, and I could feel it. Like all my kids feel it. It's, you know, Naked Bike Ride was this weekend. Like we're back, riding bikes naked. So I went through a bunch of questions. We got some stuff.
I'm so glad. Absolutely, man. No. And I assumed you were talking about, you know, the cool places to go in Portland and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't more specific. There's so much. And John knows. John visited. There's so much good food.
Oh,
there's literally a chicken cart at the Portland Asylum that just opened a few weeks ago that is buried in the back, and everyone goes, that guy won this award and that award and this award, and all he wants to do is make chicken and doesn't want to fuck around with the restaurant. And I go, okay, let me like the guy like Jon Favreau's chef, and I went, best chicken I've had in 5 years. I like this either the best chicken or this guy's nuts, right? Best chicken. So the whole city's filled with stuff like that.
No, it really is a fun city, and I purposely went a couple days before Rose City to really explore. And I mean, lost myself in Powell's, the wonderful bookstore. You know, God, I
support that strike as well. The employees of Powell's are going on strike soon, so
wow,
I support them as well. Yeah, yep, same reasons. It's going to hit every industry.
Bri, that's exactly what I've been saying about the writers and actors strike. Mm-hmm. It's like no, and in fact, it's something that Jenkins and I talked about the other day, and he compared it to the teachers' unions in Florida and stuff. No, this is universal. It really is. Yeah. It's affecting every walk of life. Yep. So no, I absolutely hear you, man. Let's see here. Are you drawing anything lately? Yes, Mario.
Yeah, yes, but not real. Not to the level I want to. I know there's a drawing back here, my little drawing board. But I wanted to draw Fortune and Glory the musical. I wanted to draw it, just with my kids and the other projects and stuff. It's near impossible. I'm going to wait till my eyesight completely goes, and then I'm going to get back into drawing.
Nice.
But I want to. I mean, that's what this is. I'm manifesting. Like this is literally a drawing table with drawings on it. I'm manifesting a reality in which I will sit and draw. So,
well, that's great, man.
I want to. I just and again. And this sounds like a cheeky line that I've been using my whole career, but here's the deal. Every book I'm writing or creating with someone is being done with a master of the craft who does, like, I'm working with Alex Maleev on a crime book right now that is so beautiful. You'll see it next year. It's so beautiful. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, I'd rather be doing this than trying to match Alex. I could just write to inspire Alex. It's like a much better use of my time, but it is, yeah.
Did you answer Natural Bridge regarding Josh Williamson?
I haven't talked to Josh in quite a few years. He was one of my original students in my Portland State class, and I take a lot of I take a little pride in that I was part of his journey. Again, anyone who teaches know that you're just helping someone on their journey. You're not the reason they're succeeding. You are, but you're kind of like, oh, good, you're here. You know you need to be here. Let me get you what you need to know and get you to the next step. And Josh was part of a class with quite a few creators ended up creating, and that I was very proud of. And he was very cool the entire time I was at DC, but I'm not at DC anymore, so I haven't been keeping track with what's been going on. So, but yeah, and Joshua, I'm in Joshua's book, Nail Biter, which I was very flattered by, and that was very fun. So
Did he let you know ahead of time that he was doing that?
Oh no, yeah, no, he asked me, are you cool with me doing this? I'm going to do it the way years and years ago I did it with other creators in my book, and he wanted to do one of those, and of course I said yes, just like people said yes to me. I couldn't wait to say yes, even though I don't like looking at this. I was happy to oblige. That was a lot of fun.
There's a kid, and
but it's always funny when people make fun of you in comics, and like there's people who don't like you think that they're gunning for, like, people think that nail biter thing is me being mean to me, and I'm like, no, I'm in on the joke. It's a
no, I hear you, man. No, a guy put me, or he was going to put me in his comic, had a 1-page word balloon thing where I was interviewing his character, and he's like, I couldn't put it in the comic, but here it is. Here it is. He put it on Facebook, which was very sweet.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was nice. It was very nice. So,
no, we're working on something that's about the industry. You get mentioned.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm still floating that you put me in Ultimate Spider-Man. You put me in Cover, which I absolutely adore. In fact, that reminds me, somebody in the chat earlier had asked about some potential animated things based on your stuff. And I know at one point, Cover was being considered.
Yes. So a few years ago, when I was at Warner Brothers, someone at HBO Max said we want to do an animated adult animation for Cover with the people at Rooster Teeth, and me and David met the people at Rooster Teeth, loved them. We had a great time. They hired me to write a script. I'll just tell you what happened so people can. This is how it goes. I wrote the script. I was very into writing the script. It was very exciting for me. And also sharing this Hollywood space with David. David and I had Hollywood spaces that we shared, but not together, which was weird. Like he worked on Jessica Jones, but not with me. Like it was like we were always close. Like he drew the Captain America credits in my house. I worked on that movie, but not together. So it's always like so close. It was weird, but not together, right? So here we are together, arm in arm as collaborators. HBO wants to make an animated thing. Very, very exciting. I wrote my little ass off. Script was approved. And that comes, we are willing to pay for a presentation. So they write a check to Rooster Teeth and David to go like animate a section or sections, like show us what it's going to look like, right? And so for Cover, for people that know, Cover is it takes place in the real world of comics, but if comics creators were being recruited to be for the spy world, and based on some true stuff. Not that we were being recruited for spy stuff, but me and David were both working for the State Department. We're doing appearances for the State Department. I had gone to Bolivia, and David had gone to Russia, and we had really like earth-shattering international cultural events happen in our life. David had some dangerous things happen in his life because of it, and there was a lot of emotion behind the joke of Cover, but it was us blowing off some steam. So it was all coming from a real honest place, not just the shtick of the premise. And so I will say I have seen David Mack's watercolors brought to animated life, and I was startled how good it was. Like it was like, oh shit, like oh my, it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So what we did was, for people to know, Cover has like 2 or 3 David Mack styles of artwork: the David Mack watercolor style, the David Mack noir style, and the different styles of the comic books that were going on. So we wanted to come up with an animation style for real world, noir world, David Mack comic book world. So there was like 3 different animated voices within it. We took that as far as we could go with the money we had. We were going to take it further. Then the HBO Max became not HBO Max anymore. Literally, they let everything go away. And they handed it back to us with a hearty handshake and no hard feelings, which I'm grateful for. Sometimes they don't give it back to you. They just go, we're not going to make it, but we're not giving it back.
Right.
We don't want anyone else to make it. And
Right.
they're in their legal rights to do so for a period of time.
Yep.
Sometimes up to 7 years, which is forever. And that's sometimes where, why didn't this ever get made into a movie? Because someone owns it and they won't give it up. Right. And they won't make it. So, Dick Tracy. And so I was very grateful to, as they were leaving their offices, the executives, and they all got fired. I mean, they made sure we got our stuff back before they left. I said, wherever this person lands, please, you are a good person. That's great. Yeah, that was very nice. So that ended, but it ended as nicely as these things end. Sometimes they don't end well. They just get cranky and for no reason. But so hopefully David and I, when the strike is over, we'll be able to find a home for it, whether it be at my home at Amazon or somewhere else. But we would like to find a home for it. We really believe in it. And again, watching David's art start to move around is very exciting. It's very, very cool.
That's great.
So, and the other animated project I had at Warner Brothers was Legion of Superheroes. And this was the other great, not to like, I handed in cover and then they go, we love this. Do you want to write Legion 2? And that's when you really feel like you did a good job. And there's been times where I handed stuff in, Kitty Pryde script, and they're like, did I hand it in? It's hard to tell. There's no actual evidence that it's been handed in. Whereas, and this one, it was like, hey, do Legion. And I'm like, yes, I'll do Legion. And that got very exciting. And I wrote my ass off on the Legion script and felt very good about it. And at one point, Greg Berlanti's company attached themselves to it because they had, I found out over the years, were trying to figure out Legion, and my in was what they were looking for.
Oh, wow, that's great.
And I was very flattered by that as well, because I really gave a lot of thought to these choices, and that I believe my 5-page outline was a 25-page multimedia presentation. Like I was, because not only because they were having me write a script after I had already done like 8 issues of Legion, so I had all this amazing Ryan Sook and Mikhail Janin and all this other artwork. Like everything was already drawn and designed. I don't have to like tell you what I think New Earth looks like. Here, Ryan Sook drew it. Like, so I used all of the artwork and gave all the credit to all the artists because I was hoping to hire them all for the project, and said here. And so I had all these Alex Garner covers that looked like movie posters, and handed it all in and felt very strong about it. It just, everyone got fired and they made no more. There was a couple other animated projects that I knew of around that time that also got kicked to the curb. It's just Warner Brothers, baby. They're just a big old mess, and it's and they have been for a while. So
several years, yes.
So I was watching The Rock talk about Black Adam on the Kevin Hart podcast. It's on YouTube. I knew that look on his face. I understood that look. So yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a shame because, well, God, I mean, I'm really happy, and in my last conversation was able to tell Ed Brubaker how happy I was that Batman Cape Crusader is found a new home.
Too. Yeah.
And I, again, back to Star Trek, I'm glad that Prodigy, it seems, has landed at, I think, Amazon as well, hopefully.
Oh, great. No, I didn't hear that. That's great.
That's what I'm hearing. And really, everybody, this is in the weeds, and I can't confirm, or I can't say that I got them from anybody. I just connected the
Well,
dots.
the Ed thing is
Oh, no. Cape
right?
Crusader absolutely is at Amazon. I'm talking about Prodigy, because truly, it's the best. And I even think better than Strange New Worlds. It's the best new Star Trek thing they're making.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm so happy for Julie and Shauna Benson. They wrote on the first season. Happy birthday, ladies! And also,
they have the same birthday as me, don't they? I think they do.
Yeah. Well, were you
August
just
18th, right?
Oh no, they were today. I want to say.
Oh, okay. I guess I felt that over.
Close enough. Yeah, close. And by the way, happy birthday. Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Well, you know,
one of those completely innocuous middle-aged birthdays that mean nothing.
Oh, dude, 59 is staring me in December. 50-fucking-9. Ow.
You might as well just round up. You just want to round up and be 60 for like 3 years.
Yeah, I know. I'm easing my way in. But truly, this is how I was at 49. I'm sure you might have been the same way, waking up to 50. And it's like, it's still me. I'm okay. It's fine.
50, I forget, one of my friends said to me, because I had accidentally, like, I think 50 was around my switch over to DC, and I lost the weight. And and one of my friends go, all right, doing 50, I'd entered 50 well, but 50s, as you're 59, I think you will agree, 50s are messy. No one really talks about it. Like, you hear about middle age and you hear about old age, but there's this thing in the middle. It's just fucking messy as shit. And you're like all of our friends were like, oh, we're the adults, oh yeah, we're like, I'm the, like, okay, and you're head of household, oh shit, okay. And it's all that, but also there's I forget which comedian said, I might have been Mulaney, about how oh, it might have been Seinfeld, you're allowed to have birthdays up to 40, and then you go 40, and then you're only allowed to have a birthday on the decade. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And then at 80, you get to go back to every year. Because if you make it to 80, then every year is another celebration. But 56 is not a celebration. 59 is not a...
Well, and you forget. I mean, I know, 56 through 58, it's like, I have to think for a second. It's like, no, I'm 56. No, wait, I am 57. Sorry. All right, never mind.
Also, spending an enormous amount of time reminding myself what 56 sounded to someone who was 20. Look, when I was 20 and Batman came out of retirement at age 55 to become Batman, and I went, that's insanity. Even by the rules of comics, that's nuts. I now have to think of that, and that's how people see me. Like, no matter what I feel like, doesn't matter, because yeah,
you're absolutely
I'm old as fuck.
So. Yeah, but again, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. And those who are blown away, it's like, you'll get there. And that's what I always tell people. I'm like, you'll get there. Don't worry.
I know about my 10-year-old going, so you had to dial the phone. You had to put your finger into the phone and it's to her, that's as crazy as me watching Mayberry going, operator,
yeah, connect me, Sarah. That's fantastic. I don't know what this is, Jose. What are your thoughts on the UAP stuff in the news lately? What is the UAP?
I want to make it the United
Asshole Protection Program. I don't know.
I am pro asshole protection, but that's not what I think we're doing here.
I don't think it is it. Jose, if you want to explain what that is.
Oh, the UFO stuff. UFO. Unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yes. Yeah, again, that's adorable, U.S. government. Call them fucking UFOs, so we all know what the hell you're talking about. They're UAPs, asses. Jesus Christ. And I'm not picking on you. But I understand. What I mean, my God,
we're again, this is ageism. It will always be UFOs to us.
Exactly.
Because half the TV shows we grew up watching were in search of UFOs, close encounters. We were inundated by UFO stuff while we were kids.
Yeah.
I this summer saw Close Encounters at the Hollywood Theater.
Great.
Actually saw it with Tinian and Oming as part of a Dark Horse promotion for Blue Book. Like
Yeah,
it was
Blue
not
Book,
like
absolutely. Great book that they're doing. Yes.
but it was great to see Close Encounters on the big screen like that in high def. It was really scrumptious. It was really something to see.
That's cool.
And but watching it, I'm thinking, I'm like, oh my god, when I was a kid, when this movie was out, we heard about UFOs every fucking day, every day. And now here we are with cell phones. Like there was fucking aliens in Vegas in someone's backyard 2 months ago, and no one talks about it the next day. I had video footage of an alien, and I can't even find out if it was a hoax.
I haven't seen it. I've seen that.
Yeah. There was the guy calls and goes, "There's a fucking alien in my backyard," and there was flashing lights all over the thing, and the guy had video footage of it, and we're like, "Is that real?" And it looks like out of the movie Signs, and you're like, God damn, and we're sitting there going, is it like, and I'm a kid from the 70s, so I'm pre-wired to believe this is real. Because Leonard Nimoy told me it's already happened hundreds of times, right?
Absolutely.
So
Ancient Aliens is just a redux of In Search Of and Eric Von Daniken. This is how me and Oming initially bonded over Eric Von Daniken and Chariots of the Gods, his book and the documentary that I believe Rod Serling narrated in the early 70s of, and it's all, if everyone modern day Ancient Aliens, it's all the same shit that they cover in that. And
no, but like now that everybody has a phone, you would think in high def we would have met aliens. We would have met them based on what was going on in our childhood. And other than here and there, not much.
Well, that military footage of whatever that ship was that was cruising along, I mean, it was that was very eye-opening, and obviously that is why finally the government's like, all right, we don't know what the fuck it is either, but they're out there. And it's
like I was like, yeah, get us talking about UFOs. We'll let you do whatever you want to the government. Show us a spaceship.
I'm with you, man. I'm so with you.
Get away with anything. I thought the orange bobblehead would have come out with there's I met an alien. He was right back there. Like I thought he's gonna walk out of Area 51 and lose his shit or something.
I just learned we made
an alien. He loves me.
Exactly. He called me.
Happy mugshot day to you. Anyway, so
hey, by the way, could he look more like a Bond villain in the fucking picture? It's like, you piece of shit. I'm sorry, everybody. If you're, on the other side, I don't mean to stir shit up, but I'm saying this. Yeah, it's like, good.
So
Lord.
funny.
I know.
Ridiculous. I just, as a parent, it's not. It's harder to parent when bad guys are getting away with it. It's easier to parent when there's consequences.
Well, and that's
there is.
And again, in a different time in the early 70s, I remember Watergate quite well, and it was literally men of integrity in the Republican Party who went to that president and said, "You crossed the line.
Yeah, shut it down. You're done. It's over."
You got to go. Barry Goldwater, one of the most arch conservatives in the world, and literally the conversation with Nixon was, "Well, how many do I have?" And he's like, "How about none? You got nobody in the Senate that's going to back you, including me."
Sorry.
Exactly, man. Do the walk, as Stevie Wonder sang back then.
Mm-hmm.
Great song.
We can move on from that. I don't know, but it is shocking that the times we live in.
Well, that's I was telling Paul Jenkins. I'm like, that's that Chinese proverb. May you live in an interesting time. And he's like, but that's a curse. I'm like,
yeah, it is absolutely. Yeah. Holy shit. It's been constant for years.
Oh my God. It's sad but true, kids. I'm sorry. I'm almost nervous to try to go back to the Patreon page because that's
it's okay. I like the Civil War II questions and shit. I don't mind talking.
I know you do. I know you do.
I got a lot of nice questions all day. I don't mind the kind of a weird question. Have you been compared to Grant? You have been compared to Grant Morrison? No, I actually don't. I think
I don't think
there are people like that I am of similar DNA of and we know each other. Greg and I are very similar DNA.
That's fair.
We without talking about it often, dance around similar themes in our work as Jewish men of a certain age and such. So I think I don't think there's much comparison at all, other than, you know, we held our careers together. Other than that, there's I kind of like that. I like that there's a Grant Morrison out there. Like Dan Slott and I are very different writers writing the same characters, and I love it. Like, great, you don't like me, good. There's Dan. Go enjoy Dan. Like, you don't have to even think about me. And so I like that. I like when there's different temperaments and voices and agendas and whatnot. So I don't. And often I think what I like and what I'm challenged by with Grant is that I would never thought of that. How interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know who King Sport Cal has heard say that, but yeah, I wouldn't say that either. But he does say that Batman Universe is the best Batman comic.
Well, that I agree with. I'm joking. Thank you very much. Batman Universe was a real gift in my life. Not only was it a gig thrust upon me in a dare, but it introduced me to Nick Darrington, who is still one of my closest friends.
Great guy.
We were just at his house a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that's great.
I made a friend because of Batman. So that and my wife and his wife are very close. We're really when I think of like, oh, our project brought me a friend is a very, very cool thing, and a lot of them do.
Understood. All right, here we go.
All of them. Sometimes you're like, oh, that was fun, bye, and see you around. And other times you're like, yeah, I'm going to text you every day, no matter what.
That's great to hear. All right, I'm on my Patreon page. It's slightly frozen, so I hope there we go. All right, now it's moving. Now it's moving. Where the hell is it? Let's see. What are Brian's thoughts on Image leaving Diamond previews and Dark Horse getting moved to the non-featured phone book back section? And as a bonus,
is it
I guess
Diamond section? Well, we're in a transitional period right now in publishing, and we have been for a couple of years since the pandemic. The industry has completely changed shape. I would say, not to generalize too much, but Raina and Dogman altered the shape of our industry in a way that's there's no backs. So there's not a mainstream comics and an independent comics, which is how we referred to it for most of the time. You and I have been talking, but a few years ago it became there's mainstream comics, which is superhero comics. There's Marvel and DC. There's the other mainstream comics, which is Image, Dark Horse, Boom. Yeah. And then there's Scholastic, Abrams. There's three large sections, and within there's subsets. But in those three publishing sections, there's almost three mainstream comics at the same time. If an Image book can outsell a Marvel book, and if an Abrams book can outsell a DC book, then they're all mainstream. That the audience has decided if Dogman outsells everything, then that's the mainstream, right? So I celebrate it completely. It is number one. The audience chose this. The audience spoke, and this is what happens. Number two, it opens the door for so many different kinds of voices to find actual commercial success, not just get published, but to actual. Maybe I'm the next Dogman. Who knows? Like anything could be, right? And like even traveling to Abu Dhabi, like I did this summer, and met the Sandstorm Comics, who is a new comic book company coming out of that region, with full of creators from that region, and Ron Mars and other people who are making comics in that area. Like the industry is constantly evolving towards the voices that want to make the comics, and that's kind of exciting. So I forgot what the original question is, but I'm really into this new evolution because I think it's more truthful to what comics has always been. I think that idea of like Marvel and DC lording over everything was sometimes an illusion, and sometimes executives pushing down on that idea. But the reality was there were always hit independent comics There were always books doing better than what were quote unquote the mainstream comics as well. It was always a mixture of the bunch, and it should be seen for what it is, which is anything could be mainstream. The audience decides.
James had asked what you thought of Dark Horse getting moved to the non-feature.
Well, yeah. So I can't speak to that other than we're in a transition and there's some moves moving, and we'll see what Diamond's next move is. I don't get it completely. I'm not doing business with them anymore, which I'm grateful for. So it was a monopoly that wasn't working. It was hurting us more, at least from my perspective. It was a monopoly that hurt more than it did good. And a monopoly I sometimes thrived in, so I don't want to sound disingenuous. But it was a monopoly and it felt weird. And I never really understood it, especially when I was in other mediums, would never allow it. Never. So it was strange.
I understand.
So I'd rather there were more choices and more publishers and more distributors and more choices for all the creators. More choices, better for creators. Less choices, people get boxed out quickly.
James was also wondering what future you see for digital comics with Comixology's ongoing degradation.
Well, there's a lot of movement going on behind the scenes, so we will see. I'm like, even in the Substack space, like there's a lot of just content delivery services that are kind of getting it into their head. Maybe it's us, maybe not. Maybe the audience will decide. I would like you to hand me your story in this shape or that shape. So we'll see. But I mean, digital ain't going away. There's already a couple new companies that have announced their intent to dominate all that and to bring further. I would deeply love to see an evolution of the language of the medium go alongside an evolution of the delivery service of digital comics. I have that same thing in streaming where, we're still doing half hour. Like it's like there's no 10-minute shows. Like, even though I thought that's where we were going with Children's Hospital, I thought all shows were going to be Children's Hospital by now. I really did at one point say, there's the future of sitcoms. 10 minutes of 500 jokes, 85 commercials. That's it. That's a great system. But but we'll see. I'm curious why streaming hasn't evolved the language of storytelling more. We're still using 3-act structure and blah blah blah. Whereas I know there is evolution, but overall there's a lot more Yellowstones than there are experimental theater going on at the streamers, and that seems weird to me. You think they're like, if I was like Peacock, I would be like, we're going to only do like something different than it, like stand out among the 50 streamers with an original way to stream shows or whatnot.
Is that your way of telling me you invested in Quibble?
Kubi, was it Kubi?
Oh, I thought it was.
Yeah, but Kubi, here's the thing, but the Kubi was a timing thing, also a content thing, but Kubi was launched when everybody was home without their phone, like you needed to be on your phone at your office looking at
or commuting. Absolutely, yes.
So if QB got launched today, it might have a chance. I don't know. Hard to say.
I'm glad
that content was blowing people's minds.
Right. Well, and you're right to point out like Children's Hospital and a lot of the Adult Swim programming that is just 10 minutes. Good Lord, Justice League Action, one of the last DC animated things. I was a massive fan of that show. And they put it in the half-hour bubble, but you had two different stories, and essentially you had 2 10-minute Justice League stories, and they were great.
Yeah, I mean, literally, John Oliver will go as long as the show needs to go. I thought most shows would do that by now. Like everyone just pulls up what they pull up when they want to pull it up. They don't like, it's 8 o'clock, I better sit down and watch TV. That's not what they do. So,
absolutely, yeah. Well, again, it's this different world. You're absolutely right, and that I'm shocked that late night talk is surviving as well as it is, because those are dinosaurs.
But they survive because they're digital content creators as well. They serve their purpose. Comedy nerd coming at you real hard here, but They also listen to Fly on the Wall on the Dana Carvey podcast. They talk about the business model all the time because when David Spade was on the show, it aired once and then aired again in the summer. And if you didn't see it, that was it.
Yep.
Now there's a complete different relationship to these sketches and the comedy. And it's like it can live, it can be a huge hit on Saturday night and then live on for years as a hit on YouTube or on Instagram forever and ever and ever. And that's not a luxury that those creators in the 90s had, right? So thinking along those lines, I'm always fascinated about like how like Seth Meyers found a perfect content in A Closer Look. Like that's his hit. Like Closer Look is his top 10 list.
Absolutely.
And so each of them have a signature piece that plays well in the theater and plays well on network television and plays excellent on YouTube.
That's a good point.
You know,
Absolutely.
So that's how they do it. It's just an evolving business, you know.
Alex,
I watch all of them, and I don't think I've watched any of them on television.
I have adjusted that way as well.
Yeah.
So I hear you. Alex wanted to know: are there any hot artists you would love to work with?
Well, when I want to work with them, it's not because they're hot. It's not like, oh, I want some of that heat, but their talent speaks to me on a profound level. That's usually what gets me. And sometimes they are hot, and because their work is speaking to all of us on a profound level. And man, I would love to be part of that. And sometimes have done so. And other times, I think oh my God, if I discovered someone before somebody else, or I just love this and I don't care if anybody else does. I just love it. So,
well, and again, I would point to recent collaborations like the ones.
Yes, these are two perfect examples.
Yeah, man. And Fortune and Glory too. The music.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so I meet artists online and there's quite a few artists that I want to work with, some of which I'm friends with. Like I know Becky Cloonan really well. I like she lives here in Portland. I would love to work with her. I don't think I've ever told her that because I know she's fucking busy. So I'm gonna it's what happens often is that creators get together and the only one you can complain to is other creators. Like nobody online. Oh, other creators, stop bitching online about anything. The audience doesn't care, and nor should they care. It's hard. This making comics is hard. And guess what? So is every job. They're all hard jobs. And working at McDonald's is hard. And working in a warehouse is hard. Stop. Complain to your peers. Anyway, so we get together and we whine and bitch. But what happens is when a creator tells you, oh my God, I'm overloaded. Oh my God. Oh, my mom and my kids and it's a lot of stuff. And then you don't want to go, hey, you want to do a book? Like on top of everything you just said, can I cause more chaos in your life? So that sometimes stops me from selling. But yes, I would like to work with every great artist all the time. That is the reality of what it feels like to do this. I'm working with Andre Lima right now, and I want to work with Andre Lima. I literally was going over book 2 last night going, man, I want to work with this guy. Oh yeah, I'm working with this guy. So that's how it feels like.
I'm looking through the other Patreon questions.
Okay, well, I got to go. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, Matthew had a comment. Bendis' Superman run gave me hope during a grim time, brought me back to Superman and the Legion of Superheroes. And then he asked if you have any other DC projects in the future, but as you said.
Well, going back to our earlier thing, like there's some people that fucking hated my Superman run. They hated the idea of it. They didn't even read it. They just, I don't like, Yeah, and so they would be hard pressed to believe that you exist, that you liked it and got a lot out of it. So that's my life. I will tell you that run is probably one of the most important things in my life as far as like, I can't believe I got to do it. I can't believe how much I needed it. I remember I was coming out of a major health scare right into the arms of Superman, with the heaviest trauma that I had ever faced, a couple of them piled up on top of each other. I'm breathing like a Lamaze instructor all day long as I'm typing, and there was Superman to help me through it every step of the way. And I couldn't imagine, I believe we talked about this a couple of years ago, a better scenario for myself in my mental health than just having to be forced to sit and think, what would the best person think? Superman is the best person. He thinks the best thoughts. If it's not the best thought, it's not Superman and it's wrong. So having to think like Superman many hours a day during my trauma that led into the pandemic trauma, that was my whole Superman run, was such a gift to me that I just like, oh, today sucks. I'm in the deep heart of a pandemic, but I get to spend all day with Superman alone in my room. That's better than most people's pandemics, right? Yeah. Like that's a blessing and a gift. And it's a bummer to me that like that last year of the DC stuff just was all like not even really shipping. Like it wasn't really like there wasn't any stores open. It wasn't really going anywhere. I was grateful that they kept letting us make them. Like they never put us pencils down, which I was deeply grateful for. But I got to do my whole run. I feel very wonderful about it. But it was sad that it was the end of Dan DiDio's time at DC. Like things were falling apart around us while we were making it, and me and Johnny were just like looked at each other. We'd been through
Brian's in the Twilight Zone.
Say it again. Oh, did I disappear? What happened? Did I freeze? Someone froze. Who froze? Let me know if it's me.
The show froze, so I want you to go back. And you were saying that unfortunately it was a tough time.
I mean, the reality is that Warner Brothers was evolving, and it was the end of Dan's run, and Dan and Bob were gone, and a lot of the editors were gone, and there was a few issues of my Justice League that was being edited by a temp employee. Like it was like there was nobody there, and so wow. It didn't end like it started, but there was just nobody there. So I would have loved to just gone a different way, but just that's how the wheels were turning. But I am deeply grateful for having done that run, having been able to do that run, and everyone let me do what we wanted to do. And Johnny and I got to like really felt good about it at the end. I got to talk about it when it's all over, and it was what a great experience that I and then like every day someone writes me a little thing on Instagram about rereading it or just discovering it. And it's quite nice. I'm glad it's reading well.
And it's interesting.
But there are people out there. So someone wrote on Reddit that I killed Lois Lane, and people still think I killed Lois Lane. I hear it all the time, Lois killer, and I'm like, well, I know you didn't read it. like it doesn't matter what you're saying to me, Bubba. It never happened.
No, I hear you.
Fake news.
It is interesting comparing your experience with Superman and coming out of the traumatic health issues that you were dealing with. Compare that to Paul Dini, who wrote that very personal, after he got mugged, how Batman helped him kind of process that experience. So, yeah, it's interesting. And I'm glad
these characters can really be there for you when you want them to. And I've had that experience at both companies. It's real. It's real special. I look to people like Paul and Steve Siegel did it. There's the people who really, Paul Jenkins did it, where you could really bring your truth really close to the characters, and they thrive in it. So, I mean, I'll never be able to go back and read those last issues of Miles that I did. I don't even know what's in them. I wrote them in complete trauma. So I know that last issue, like he's in the hospital. Like I know like I went that far with it, but it'll just have to be for other people.
No, I understand. Stanley wanted to know if you go to many cons, do you enjoy them?
I love them. And John has been at conventions with me. We have a blast. We have a good time. We've been to conventions like all over the country, and we have a very good time. I don't do a lot of them because I have a lot of children, and my children are now preteens, teens, and adults. And that's when they need you the most. That's not only when they need you the most. That's when they know when you're not there. They So
feel
I've had the benefit of knowing that and just having literally stayed home since Olivia was about 13. And that was the right choice. But I love them, and I've never had anything but great experiences. I don't think I've ever had anything but great experiences. And so I'll be in Baltimore in a couple weeks for the Baltimore Con, and David Mack will be there, and Simonson will be there. My editor from Charles will be there from Abrams, and we're going to have a great time. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm sorry you won't be there. Me and Lord Retail are going to do a podcast together.
Hey, that's great.
We're gonna like record our conversation and play it on both of our podcasts.
Just don't make him do it in the men's room like you did with me that one year.
That was a great one.
That was a good one.
We did a word balloon podcast in the bathroom of Wizard World Chicago. And people were just walking by us as they were peeing. Some famous people too, right? Just like, I'm trying to pee here while the camera's on. Anyway,
I don't think Peter Mayhew was very happy that there was audience going on while he was trying to pee. Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So and if you've never been to a convention, I couldn't recommend them higher. I know that sounds like, ooh, what a controversial statement, but there's a warmth of humanity at a good convention that you can't experience anywhere else.
Agreed. I have to tell you a Baltimore story off the air. I'll leave it at that.
I love an off-the-air story.
It is a no.
Somebody got punched.
Somebody should have gotten punched. I'll leave it at that, and everyone can kind of connect the dots. But I have a feeling it's going to be a long time before I'm at another Baltimore. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, did you got punched?
I did not get punched. I'll tell you the story.
Ooh, okay. Well, we got to go, everybody.
We haven't talked about the ones, and I apologize.
I was there when Darwin Cook punched somebody. We've seen some stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. We miss Darwin. Listen, and Darwin, Rucka, Gabe Hardman, myself, we're all in the Hothead Club, and I so understood. And I think that's why connected with Darwin. All right, we're back. God damn it.
Say it again. Well, say.
That like Darwin, I understand where your temperament is coming from. I may not agree with it, but I've been there, and I think on that level, I know that Rucka and Hardman and I have bonded over that kind of "don't get me angry, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry" kind of vibe for the moment and stuff. We didn't talk about the ones. I want. Obviously, do you have the new collection? Is it already out, or is it coming out?
I don't have one in front of me because I'm a jerk, but the ones collection is in stores right now from Dark Horse Comics. The ones is by myself and Jacob Edgar.
The internet gods are fucking with us kids.
Have I used up the internet for the month? Is that it?
Yeah, I know. What the hell, man? I know. I hear you, man. No, and if anything, I just paid my bill today, so everything should be fine.
No, I'm good on my end too. Am I better now?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, I'm gonna repitch. So I have a new creator-owned comic called The Ones with Jacob Edgar. And the first 4 issues are collected and out today in the first trade paperback. And I thank you for everyone who bought it. It was one of our biggest hits so far. So thank you. And it's everyone in every mythology who were told they were the chosen one, the one, has to team up with the other ones to defeat the actual one. So it is a comedy. It is fully leans in heavy on what I think is the funniest thing in the world, which is the trope of the chosen one. Not in religion, but in mythology. And sure. I've been delighted by this trope since Eddie Murphy's The Golden Child.
That's what I was going to say. Absolutely, man. I love it. Isn't it weird? He has disowned that movie. And it's like, dude, that is one of your funniest movies. My high school.
It's a good director, but it's not a good movie. And I remember Ebert saying in review, even as a child, Ebert said, "Oh, and it's not a good movie, but it's such a good idea for a movie." And I went, "Is it?" I was like, I don't know if it is. And as a young man, I was even questioning it. But then we had so many versions of this, including The Matrix, which is the funniest one to me. With Trinity telling Neo he's the one when she's clearly the one. Anyway, so everything about it is delightful and funny to me and has been for decades. And I've been dancing around this idea forever. I finally found my way in with Jacob, and that was to make each one of these characters like a mega superstar in my head. Each one of them I've written dozens and dozens of pages of behind the scenes material and backstory for, and we're having a blast with them. We are doing a second volume right now. So if you like what you see, there's more to come. It is a comedy. It is fun. It is about something. And because it also, on top of it being about the one, it's also about how everybody kind of thinks they're special shit because they're on the internet. So so we live in this world where everybody is the one. And if everyone's the one, then no one's the one. So this is something fun to write about. So please enjoy it. I've enjoyed every interaction I've had about this book. And if you miss my my old teen books like Avengers, and if you miss the Avengers hanging around eating a pizza, if you miss that, it's all that. It's all pizza scenes.
Yeah, it's the downtime. It's not all pizza, but there's downtime in there.
Yeah,
but also for people who don't want a superhero story, it's got the tropes, but it's all plain clothes, and it's
I know. Yeah. It is. Yeah, it is. It is a comedy, and but like Ghostbusters, like I'm a Ghostbusters baby, that's the funniest movie I've seen and the best special effects science fiction movie I've ever seen. At the time it came out, that was the best. Yeah, it was whole. Now you're the funniest and the best one I've ever seen, and I use that as my template going forward. Like if you're going to do a comedy, also make it the best action, the best story, like make the story structure immaculate. Like don't just goof around. Like really, tell that story. So thank you for saying that. So they're saying superhero is wrong. No one's wearing costumes. They're very much themselves. Yes. And most of them are characters that they were the one for something that already happened. So they're kind of in has-been mode of some level. And some of them are happy about it. Some of them are confused by it. Some of them are miserable. And so we're having a lot of fun with that as well.
Yeah.
And that we live in that society too. I love that society of we hear about these people all the time. We hear about them for like 3 weeks, and then you never hear them ever again. You never hear their name ever. You can't even get an update. Like what happened to that person who did that thing with the thing? And so having that, like, what's that like? What's like when everyone was into you 3 months ago and nobody? Yeah, everyone's.
Well, that's the thing, and as social media has evolved, it was a big part of Powers when you and Mike were doing it, and now I think again with the reaction of the world to these kinds of people and stuff, you're able to evolve it in the ones. I think so. I
appreciate that. With
that's my thought. Is he frozen again? I think he might be frozen again.
Am I?
There we go. Oh, that's
back. All right. We were good for a while. That's a bummer. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Listen, the ones is just part of.
All right, you're back.
Okay, the ones is just part of the Dark Horse line of Jinx World titles. Myself and Alex Maleev have a new book coming out. New Joy Operations is coming soon. Thanks for buying that. And me and Mike Oming have right now have Murder Inc. coming out in stores right now. We're right in the middle of the miniseries, so I feel I froze. Did I freeze? I froze.
Yes, which continues to delight me. Yes, no, you did for a little bit, but you're back now, and
I'm back. Okay, yeah. So Murder Inc. Third volume is out.
United States of Murder Inc. and everything.
I appreciate that. Murder Inc. is something I love dearly. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done, and I can't wait for us to get out of strike so we can go make it the TV show. It's going to last 25 years. All right. I feel we're done with the internet.
I know. All right. Obviously, the internet wants us off. I don't know what's happening. Our VCRs are blinking 12, as I like to say. So maybe it's time for us to go. But hang out because, and if we lose the internet connection, I'm calling you because I
absolutely
a great story.
Can people hear me?
That I got to share. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say thank you to everyone for
we're
hanging
ending
out.
now.
Okay,
So,
thank you, everybody.
yeah. All right, cool. Everybody, thank you. Sorry about the internet bullshit at the end. I wish I could tell you all my stories after school, but I'm calling him on his cell if this doesn't connect. But thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, everybody.